Heathrow, Gatwick, Birmingham, Cardiff, Glasgow and Manchester airports are all affected, but Heathrow claims it's operating as normal. Military personnel and volunteers from the civil service have been trained to step in if necessary, and Rishi Sunak insists public sector pay must be controlled to keep inflation down.
First of all, I'm really sad and I'm disappointed about the disruption that is being caused to so many people's lives, particularly at Christmas time. What I'm trying to do is make the right long-term decisions for the country, for everybody's benefit. And I think we all know that the major economic challenge we all face now is inflation. It's inflation that's eating into everyone's pay packets, it's rising the cost of living, and I want to make sure that we reduce inflation. Part of that is being responsible when it comes to setting public sector pay.
Police have released the first image of a woman who died after being hit by a police car in Oldham. Greater Manchester Police say 53-year-old Heather Smedley was struck by the police car as it was chasing a suspected stolen vehicle. She was taken to hospital but died a short time later. Her family say there will be a hole in their hearts forever. Motorists are being warned to expect long delays as millions hit the road to spend Christmas with family and friends. The AA says an estimated 17 million journeys will be made today and tomorrow. A strike tomorrow by thousands of RMT members working at Network Rail is expected to make matters worse. The walkout will last until the 27th of December. We're on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Mark Dolan tonight with Neil Fox.
Right, welcome to Mark Dolan tonight with me, Neil Fox. Now, as always, we kick off Friday with the now legendary Clips of the Week, my highlights from 7 days of GB News, the good, the bad and the ugly. This hour in the studio we'll also have music legend Jonah Louie to talk Christmas number ones. Now, he knows plenty about Christmas hits. We'll be discussing why the iconic Stop the Cavalry, what a great song, narrowly missed out in 1980. And a little bit later, Patrick Christie's joins me for a Friday night feast Dog of the Week special. I can't wait. In my big opinion, at 9 o'clock, it's been a rough start to Christmas, but you know what? We'll get through it. We always do. In the big question, after the fallout to Jeremy Clarkson's column in The Sun this week about Meghan Markle, should Jeremy be cancelled? Plus, in the news agenda with my panel after the New York Times call for the abolishment of the monarchy. Really? We ask, what does the future hold for our royal family? Should you have a favourite child as well? And just before Christmas, can you have a successful one with an ex? Now, there's a question. Plus, tomorrow's papers from 10:30 before anyone else, right through until 11 o'clock. This is Mark Dolan tonight. I'm Neil Fox, so put something cold and fizzy in the fridge or fire up the kettle and let's have a night to remember. It's time for Clips of the Week. Right then, it's now time for Clips of the Week, where we take you on a whistle-stop tour of the highlights of the week here on GB News. Mark Dolan, sir, I hope I can do you proud. Right, first stop then, Bev Turner, the queen of GB News. She is intelligent, she's stylish, and she's attracting great British actors like Jim Murray to the channel to discuss really important subjects like fly fishing.
Famous actor in The Crown and other series that we will know you from. A lot of people will also know you from the series that you do with Robson Green.
Yeah.
The fishing series.
Robson and Jim's Fly Fishing Adventures.
Thank you. I've watched every single episode.
I bet you have.
I haven't.
You've got plenty of time over Christmas, Bev, so tell that fella of yours to stop watching those old Top of the Pops repeats and get his rod out. Right, next up, the king of neutrality. It's our own Dan Wootton. Tonight, no spin, no bias, no censorship.
As the Marxist unions responsible for dangerous strikes by nurses today and ambulance workers tomorrow inexcusably put British lives at risk, Rishi Sunak is staring down the hard-left fanatics.
I mean, seriously, Dan, I think you just need to stop sitting on that fence and just be a little bit more honest and let us know what you think. Right, over on Headliners, one of GB News' finest, Leo Kearse, gave us an update on the Canadian wood tech teacher with those huge boobs. And the panel were not too impressed with his pun-laden intro.
With a male now, and if my memory serves me correctly, a few months ago, a Canadian trans teacher made a boob of herself by scaring the kids with enormous size Z prosthetic breasts. The school board did their bust to provide support, but on the other hand, she's had some knockers.
That was so painful.
As the kids say, it made them feel norkward.
That hurt. That was really, really, really bad. We've dropped to a new low.
You've stayed abreast of the situation.
It was terrible there, let's be really honest. Could you not think of any other jokes to slip in there? Anyway, here's Patrick Christys laying into Gary Neville.
Well, Gary Neville was a decent right-back, but he is an absolutely terrible left-winger and, frankly, comes across like a bit of a wazzock.
I'm sorry, Patrick, but for such a bright and intelligent man, you honestly do chat some absolute rubbish sometimes. I'm afraid you've got this one totally wrong. Gary Neville was an average right-back at best.
There is a special type of narcissism reserved for Gary Neville, who treated us all to a party political broadcast during a World Cup final like some kind of weirdo.
Now, there's a reason why Patrick loves Gary Neville so much. Patrick Christys, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge Man United fan. Please send all your hate mail to patrick@gbnews.uk. Now, Dan Wootton hosted the inaugural What's the Farage Awards this week. Let's have a look.
Nigel, great to have you here. Look, let's kick off with the first category. Who is your political hero of 2022?
I mean, who could it be? Jacinda Ardern, Sir Keir Starmer, maybe Joe Biden?
Oh, there's no question. Unrivaled, head and shoulders above absolutely everybody else. Somebody with courage, conviction, passion, and she actually believes in what she's saying. Oh, the winner is Georgia Maloney, no question.
No way. Nigel Farage admires a right-wing politician who's turning migrant boats away. I mean, who'd have thought it, eh? Congratulations, Georgia Maloney, on winning this year's WTF Awards. Now, back to Patrick Christys doing his bit to protect the NHS.
Ladies and gentlemen, just wrap yourselves in bubble wrap, OK? Just wrap yourselves in bubble wrap today, because we all have to protect our NHS. What's that?
Just being careful.
Just a sticker that says fragile. Right, OK.
But if you think these strikes will stop Patrick Christys from doing his job, well, you obviously don't know Patrick very well.
Joining me now is independent statistician and former head of health analysis at the Office for National Statistics and Socialist Party Southern Region organiser, Nick Chaffee. Let's start with you, Jamie. Does public support for our healthcare workers mean that pay rises might be more likely, do you think?
Lawrence Fox has had a pretty busy week. Here's one of his guests sticking it to him.
And you're looking at someone who really doesn't like Meghan Markle and doesn't like that spoiled...
Oh, no, let's not go back to... I can't hear another thin-skinned, slightly ageing white man be demeaning about Meghan Markle.
But one of his guests did get him to open up about his private life.
Not a gay man, so I don't think that, you know, sort of staying LGB without the T
I'm a
is...
bit gay.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, everyone's a bit gay.
Fair play, Lawrence. Now, here at GB News, we do try and spread some Christmas cheer as well. The fabulous Michelle Dewberry wanted to see your Christmas trees the other day, live on air.
The festivity back. You know what? Everyone else might not be in this zone, but I am. I'm in my holiday mode. Claire says, hey, Michelle, look at my Nutcracker-inspired Christmas tree. Where is it?
Yeah, sadly, Claire's tree did not appear on the screen, and for that we do apologise, but we did track down her Nutcracker-inspired tree, and here it is. Dun-dun! Very nice indeed. From everyone here at GB News, Merry Christmas, Claire, and a very happy New Year. And those are your clips of the week. What a lot of fun. And I loved Michelle Dewberry's Christmas jumper too. Now, Christmas is a great time for giving, and no one has been more generous this year than James Anderson from DEFA UK. Now, DEFA UK is a charity that helps old and vulnerable people, from fitting boilers to grocery shopping. James and DEFA UK really are the best of Britain. So, welcome to the show, James. Very nice to have you on.
Good evening. Thank you. It's humbling. Thank you.
No, it's really nice. And thank you, on behalf of everyone you've obviously done good things for this year. It's kind of the best of British in many ways. Firstly, am I saying, is it DEFA or DEFA? I don't want to get that wrong.
It's definitely DEFA.
OK, it's definitely DEFA. And why is it called DEFA? What's that about?
DEFA is Disabled and Elderly Plumbing and Heating Emergency Response. We deliver free or massively discounted plumbing, heating and boiler services to the elderly, vulnerable and disabled, plus lots of other stuff that we do in the community.
OK. Now, you helped set this thing up originally, didn't you? Why did you set it up? What was the need?
In 2017, an elderly gentleman was scammed, near enough, out of £5,500. And he asked us for a second opinion. And when he got to his property, he was in his bed. He had a hoist. He was elderly. He couldn't get up. He was disabled. And I made a promise to my son, who passed away in 2013, that I would be a better man. And when I walked in to see this gentleman in 2017, it reminded me of a bigger version of William. And that's the day I realised that's now I've got to do something. Now I've got to keep to this promise. And that's when DEFA was born.
Now, you don't actually charge anyone any money. You do everything for free. And is this your entire job now, is looking after other people? And if so, how do you actually pay for your life?
Yeah, it's my job. If anyone needs us, we're there. It's not about money, it's about community. It's about looking after each other. It's about care for each other. And if we don't, then we lose our humanity. It's not. I don't care about me. I've got a lovely wife. She supports me. My family supports me. If I come home and say to my wife, get a knot on this week, she's fine with it. That's not a problem. But as long as I put a smile on someone else's face, and the staff do, that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine with everything going on this time of year, and particularly Christmas time, you are busier than ever at the moment. If people want to donate and try and help you and other people like you do what you're doing, what can they do?
Well, they can go on our website, www.defa.com. There's a lot of information on there on how they can support us, but there's also a lot of information how they can get in contact with us and we can support them. We're working 24 hours throughout the Christmas period. I'm working. I'll be on my laptop if you need food, gas and electric. We'll get a sent to you. We'll get a sent to you wherever you are in the country. It doesn't matter where you are.
All right, James, honestly, on behalf of everyone you help and your charity helps, thank you very much. And I hope you're going to get a good Christmas too. It's been really nice talking to you, all right? Have a good one.
Thank you, and you have a good one. I'll have a turkey butty and I'll be fine.
All right, all the best. Nice one. We'll raise a drink for you another night. All right, well, coming up, Ingrid Tarrant live in the studio, plus Jonah Louis, the singer-songwriter responsible for one of the most iconic Christmas songs of all time, Stop the Cavalry. He's up at 8:30. We'll see you after the break.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GBNews. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Right, welcome back to your Friday night. The government's new planning regulations policy is coming under serious fire. Now, getting rid of red tape and making it easier to build on green belt land has angered many Brits up and down the nation. Now, TV personality and Surrey landowner Ingrid Tarrant joins us in the studio this evening to discuss her personal battle with what some would say are some pretty reckless planning reforms. So, Ingrid, welcome along. How nice to see you like this.
Yeah,
this
lovely.
is a change.
Well,
now,
thank you for having me on, because this, I'm not just representing my area, but I'm actually representing the whole of the United Kingdom. This affects us all. This is very serious, this the removal of the green belt, which in theory they're not allowed to do unless there are exceptional circumstances. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, you know, everybody can sort of like create exceptional circumstances, and I use create properly. Literally and everything, to justify it. There is no real justification, and certainly not in this particular instance in Wisley Airfield, the development there.
OK. But we definitely need more homes in the UK, and we definitely need to build more. I think everyone realises that. So, is part of the problem here, where do we build them? And as long as we can build them, and as long as it's not at the end of my street. Is that part of the problem?
I know what you're saying, NIMBYism and all the rest of it. But, Neil, actually, you say this as a statement that's sort of like, we do need more houses and we do need this, etc., etc., etc. Actually, we don't. The government wanted to build 300,000 houses a year. It's kind of meeting targets.
Right.
At the moment, and we have to look how times have changed, ignore the fact that we have got millions of immigrants that sort of like is a problem in itself. We have got an awful lot of office spaces that aren't being used. We've got streets, high street premises, retail premises. We've got other streets, residential, that have derelict houses that they haven't renovated. So a lot of these office blocks can be repurposed. About a year ago, perhaps not as long as that, I think it was Robert Jenrick, he said we can rubber stamp usage from A4 to residential, etc., etc., etc. There's an awful lot of available premises that can be repurposed. The important thing is, and this is in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's minds, I think I speak for a huge amount of people, once the land goes and it gets concreted over, it is never going to be returned to any form of permeable land. Whether it's agricultural or not, it doesn't matter. We've got flooding, We've got to look after the environment. Everybody's talking about climate change. I don't believe in climate change. It is changing, but that's natural. But we are causing a huge problem here because with flooding, so we have a lot of flooding in our area alone. But then that's true of other places as well. Anyway.
But let me ask one thing. I've seen the pictures of Wisley, and I know obviously that was my neck of the woods where I grew up. So I know Wisley Airfield. Wisley Airfield has a lot of concrete on it already right now, which they're going to get. So it's not like it's just green fields where it is.
You're right.
I know the whole acre, the whole site. Can I just read you though what we have asked, obviously, what Taylor Wimpey, who are the developers in question,
I'd love to hear what they've
we
got to
have
say.
got a statement.
Oh,
right?
good.
Here is the statement. Okay, the project will turn around 70 acres of concrete runway and hard standing into a vibrant community with increased biodiversity, schools, sports facilities, parks and open spaces, play areas, new wildlife habitats, and a range of new sustainable transport options. Our objective has always been to work with the local community. We continue to welcome opportunities to engage and receive feedback on our proposals. So that's what they've had to say. Now, have you had any contact with them?
Well, shut the front door, Taylor Wimpey. Yes, we have. They're trying to work with the community and, as they say, but they're not listening. And we've looked at the plan. This has been going on for a very long time. In fact, they're the second people to have a bite at the same cherry to do this development.
Right.
Now, they are encroaching. 40% of the land that they want to build on is within 400 metres of the protected, special protected area. So what they've done is they've had to, instead of spreading out, they've had to go in, and it's more intense, and they're going up. So you're talking about 3-storey buildings here, in any case.
It's right by the A3, though, isn't it? Right by the M25,
yeah, but they
it's
haven't
right
got
by
a slip road.
good roads.
Yep.
Would they not build a slip road for it, though?
The slip road hasn't been granted. The permission for that hasn't been granted. Another thing with that intersection, it is the most congested. The M25 junction 10 and going up to 14, which is getting close to the airport that way, is very, very congested anyway at the best of times. We have a rat race run, or what do you call it?
Yep, rat run.
When there's so many accidents in that little stretch as well, plus the pollution levels are so high. Now, I've got a statistic here. Air quality. We've got one of the highest contents of nitrogen dioxide. Now, in this particular area, it's 62 micrograms per cubic metre. The EU are recommending a safety level for humans is 40.
Okay.
40 micrograms. So that's more than 50% higher.
Would you, as a matter of fact, would any of the locals around there accept any houses to be built there at all? Because, I mean, at the moment, you've got a large disused area. It'd be nice to have something on it, right? You've just got a lot of concrete runways.
You've got 70 acres, that's correct, but there's a lot more around it. What happened with that, and again, this is an absolute travesty, the airstrip was just a temporary structure in the wall for the Lancasters, the bombers, to take off land. It was by accident. A plane tried to land, it couldn't, and it saw the field, and they thought, oh, this has worked very well as a landing strip. Now, that was taken over by the MOD, and they put the concrete. After the war, they promised to restore it to agricultural land. This is prime agricultural land. So, OK, we've got...
To be fair, that was 75 years ago. I mean, London has expanded...
Doesn't matter.
But London has expanded so much since that time.
It's a principle.
Where do we put everyone?
Well, where do we put it? But there's lots of places... Well, we don't. What we're doing is we're taking in an awful lot of people that actually we shouldn't have to house. We are at bursting point. We really are. I mean, I could go off on a tangent here, but if you think about it, I mean... The sort of indigenous people of England are, I don't know how else to say it, you know,
this is a different conversation.
It is a very different conversation. I'm going off on a tangent.
No, I was going to say, you said at the beginning, this is something that you're sort of, in a way, feel you're doing for other people around the UK. Do you feel that other people in other green spaces are, because of this relaxing of some of these planning conditions, this is going to happen all across the country? Is this your worry?
Well, it has been happening all across the country, but we've now got to stop it because it's like a runaway train, and we've got to look at supply and demand. Now, as I said a little bit earlier, there's a lot of properties that are just vacant. They're dark because office buildings, retail outlets, etc., etc. Also, the other thing is, they were talking about affordable housing here. Well, in that particular area, affordable housing, you're talking about 80%, is about £450,000. That's not affordable housing.
No.
So, again, it's a complete nonsense. They're just changing the goalposts a little bit, and it's unsustainable as well. Let me just put you in the picture here. It is primarily agricultural and a farming community that goes back way, way back. Doomsday, it's mentioned sort of like way back there. There's a little church, it's 9th century and so on.
But the world's changed.
Country.
I mean, I know it's lovely and I want to preserve it, but the world has changed and we probably we've got to find a way of solving a problem.
But the world is changing in so many other ways, environmentally as well. We need food.
Yep.
We need to be self-sufficient. We lost our cherry orchards, we lost our apple orchards and everything because of the EU to try and support our sort of like neighbours and whatever. We've lost so much that we need to be self-sufficient.
OK.
You know,
Ingrid?
with Ukraine, the breadbasket of the world, we need that land. We could be producing bread on Wisley Airfield. It's very important. I can't get
No, I can
across
understand. I can see the passion, and I can sure you and your fellow inhabitants around Ockham obviously are passionate about this. I wish you the very best in your campaign.
But I feel I speak to other people around the whole country as well, because they are fighting a battle, and very often they lose. But we keep going. We're raising money to get a QC in, and we're not going to give up.
All right, Ingrid, we wish you the very best of luck and a very happy Christmas.
Same to you.
All right, I'm sure you'll be campaigning. Well, look, coming up, I'm sure, knowing you will be. Coming up after the break, Jonah Louis is going to join us in the studio, and Patrick Christys is with us a little bit later on this hour to share the story of that great British segment. That's right, it's a Dog of the Week special. We will see you in a few.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview channel 236.
And YouView channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Up next, the GB News has rehomed another rescue dog. Join me and Patrick Christys after the break. Oops, no, sorry, I've missed you. Right, we're going to talk Christmas number ones. Now, joining me in the studio, someone I have played on the radio so many times, right, including my Nation show this morning. This is Jonah Louie, everybody. Jonah Louie has written one of the great Christmas songs called, Stop the Cavalry.
Stop the Cavalry.
Which was a great anti-war song. It was never written, though, as a Christmas song, was it?
No, it wasn't. It started out as a melody, and then I looked for lyrics, you know, and the last line of one of the verses scanned with "Can you end the gallantry?" And then I turned gallantry into "Can you stop the cavalry?" And because I thought of that line, cavalry, I started to think of connotations like the charge of the Light Brigade, because they were part of the cavalry that would charge to their deaths.
Wow.
And funnily enough, that was during the Crimean War, and of course the Crimean War is part of Ukraine, or was. So that's a
history repeating itself.
It's kind of that, or a coincidence or whatever.
Okay.
But so from there, I thought of other war scenarios, like the Great War with the trenches.
Yep.
The possibility of nuclear war. You know, Mary Bradley lives in the nuclear-free zone, or whatever I said in the lyric. And, you know, I mentioned Mr. Churchill, which is the Second World War. And really because of the eternal soldier underneath the Arc de Triomphe, the light that's eternally in flame, was kind of, in a way, what I was thinking of. The eternal soldier from century to century in different war scenarios.
Wow.
Always alive to die from century to century.
And it's lasted 42 years, and there's something about a great song. I mean, we are slightly obsessed, I know, in this country with who has the Christmas number one every year. Other countries don't really care. It was announced today, by the way, there's a band called Lad Baby have had the Christmas number one for 5 consecutive years now.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
In this country?
Yeah, in this country,
Oh, wow.
And that was announced today, so well done to them, of course. That's even beaten the Beatles record, which is slightly mad. Not that I think they'll be around as long as the Beatles, clearly, or have quite the record sales. But, yeah, you know, if you look at Wizard and Slade and Elton, some of those classic ones, 1973 was a very good year. You were 1980. A lot of the classic songs we play are quite old, and I guess they've just been around. They're like old friends in many respects, aren't they? What do you think makes, here's a tough question, the perfect Christmas number one?
I don't know if it exists really, but certainly they get caught up with the season of Christmas for some reason. One could expect maybe some message about snow or reindeers or, you know, Christmas time. I want to be in love on Christmas Day, but I'm lonely.
Yeah.
All the different, like last Christmas, the Wham singer.
Yeah.
That was a really good one. In lyrically it was, because he was alone and had a bad love experience.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad with that song last Christmas, did he, old George Michael, let's be honest. I mean, some really iconic songs over the years. Here's look, you've written a great song, right? So you've written lots of other songs, clearly, as well, but obviously, here we are talking about Stop the Cavalry. It's lasted you and done you well for 42 years. I mean, can you earn a living out of one great song?
I don't know.
That's
I mean,
not a crass question.
It's possible, you know, when you think of really big songs like Bing Crosby's White Christmas.
Yep.
Because that's like, what, 70 years or something that's been going for, and it sold more singles than any other single at the time, you know.
Yeah.
But it's fairly unusual for that sort of thing to happen. But if a single is a very big successful one, it's going to bring in a significant amount of money.
OK. And new streaming platforms, and obviously things have changed since you started making records. It was still on records, cassettes, CDs, right, we're now streaming. Everything is digital. Out of somewhere like Spotify and the other streaming platforms, are your records still getting played? Do you still feel relevant on those platforms, an artist that's been around a long time like yourself?
Yeah, it's amazing, really. You know, thank the Lord for streamers, kind of thing. I don't know why, but for some reason, it does very well on the streaming market.
OK. Now, you were kept off, let's do a little bit of history here. You were kept off #1 in 1980 because 1980, sadly, was the year that John Lennon was murdered in New York. And then they re-released some John Lennon songs, of course, that Christmas. So you peaked at #3. But everyone, it's a bit like Robbie Williams' Angels. People always think it just got to #1, like yourself. I mean, do you love this song still? Because obviously you have to sing it a lot. You can't turn up and not sing this song.
Well, I'm very pleased there's one song I can sing every year.
Yeah.
You know, so I love it in that sense. And I mean, you don't tend to tire of stuff you've written because, you know, that was your little child.
Yep.
And every song you write at the time you kind of believe in, even though most of them won't do much.
Yep.
And those that do, you realise the preciousness of that and respect it, you know.
Well, look, let's have a look at the video of this one now. I mean, this is 42 years old now.
Gosh.
Stop the Cavalry. And there you are. I mean, I have to say, it is a great song. I mean, I think I've probably played it, I mean, genuinely, every morning this week on my breakfast show, my breakfast radio show. And the interesting thing is this time of year, you know, every radio station in a way breaks its format, and whatever it normally plays, it just plays Christmas songs. We all play Wham, we all play Slade, we all play Wizard, we all play Jonah Louie. Is it like the greatest Christmas gift that you get every single year?
Well, it's just a miracle.
Yeah.
I would refer to it as a miracle. It's like winning the pools in a sense, you know. But there are plenty of Christmas tracks that would have sort of outsold mine. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles, you know. If you land a track like that, you have to feel you were lucky, you know.
Are you still making new music and still performing?
I am, because I have a studio at home, so I'm in and out of that forever, you know. And so I am still making music.
OK. What is your favourite Christmas song of all time?
Probably Santa Claus is Back in Town by Elvis Presley.
OK.
Which was like a raucous blues track.
But that's how you first got into music. I was just looking at you early on. You really liked your early rhythm and blues, didn't you?
I did,
That's
actually.
What got you into playing the piano?
The Fat Man, Fats Domino, 1949.
Yeah.
Cracker.
It all seems a long time ago, but actually they do seem timeless, some of those songs. And I think Christmas time, you listen to these classics, and they really are part of our lives, aren't they? They
yeah,
really
it's
are.
part of our DNA fabric in this country, at least, and some other countries as well.
OK.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really lovely to meet you. It really has, actually. And what will you be doing for Christmas Day?
Well, I'll be relaxing when it comes to get over all the freneticness or whatever it is, you know.
If that's a word.
Yeah.
Yeah, OK.
Make
Well,
it up as you go
lovely
along.
to chat. And,
Nice to see
and may
you.
Stop the Cavalry continue. And one day, wouldn't it be nice if it actually did happen?
Actually, let's hope it happens in Ukraine next year.
Yeah.
It's a gift to Putin. Stop the cavalry, wherever you are.
And on that note, Jonah Louie, thank you very much and a very happy Christmas.
Thank you so much,
genuinely.
and to you.
Up next, GB News has homed another rescue dog. I think I may have said that earlier. Join me and Patrick Christie's coming up after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hey, welcome back to our festive Friday. Hope you're having a very nice evening. Thank you for getting in touch on the social media. Some interesting topics coming up, of course, on the Green Belt. Anne said we must retain our Green Belt. There are masses of brownfield sites all around the UK. Adele says, what a selfish lady. Families of people brought up in areas need homes. A deserted air site isn't environmentally important. Doug says we should not go mad on expensive area killing house building. We need to go up, not sideways. Thanks for getting in contact. Paul obviously just wanted to say to Jonah Louis, who was our guest, one of the best Christmas records there's ever been, absolute genius. And Gareth on Christmas number ones, because Lad Baby is this year's Christmas number one, said Lad Baby is beyond a joke and bringing music into disrepute. Who the hell is buying this puke? Oh, well, look, I guess we can all agree to disagree. Someone obviously loved it. I guess that's why they went out and bought it. Anyway, more. Keep them coming in. Thank you very much. If you've got any views on the show, of course, please get in contact. We're always taking a look. Hopefully we'll be reading some more out before 11 o'clock. Now, regular GB News viewers may fondly remember a segment on Friday night called Dog of the Week, where each week GB News presenter Patrick Christis attempted to rehome a rescue dog. And just in time for Christmas, it seems Patrick has been successful in this mission. Cora is a 2-year-old lurcher rescued by Stray Aid in County Durham, who has now found her forever home, which is lovely. Now, I am delighted to say I'm joined by Patrick Christis right now. So, look, hello. How does it feel to have successfully rehomed another rescue dog just in time for Christmas?
Well, it makes it all worth it, to be honest with you. We are a nation of dog lovers. You know, we've tried to rehome every different type of dog on the show, formerly known as Friday Night Feast, from puppies to older dogs, disabled dogs, abused dogs, even foreign dogs every now and again as well. And when we had Cora on, she just captured the nature's heart. Sometimes you just know that that dog is going to be an absolute winner. And Cora is no different. And Lee Henderson was of Stray Aid, and he said it would be his absolute wish to get Cora rehomed in time for Christmas. Can I just say as well, one of the great things about doing this section is it wasn't just about the dogs, it's about the people behind the dogs, because these people actually really dedicate their entire lives to these stray dogs, these rescue dogs, these abused dogs, and they dedicated a large chunk of their Friday night, bless them, to coming on national television and desperately trying to get these dogs a home. And Lee Henderson was successful. Now, hopefully, the wonderful Cora can be tucked up by a fire this Christmas.
Now, I myself have a rescue dog. Have you got a dog yourself, Patrick?
I don't, unfortunately. I'm only allowed a hamster in this pokey little flat, but one day I will get a dog. But I was trying to live vicariously through other people, you know. I was trying to make sure that other people can have the joy of a dog.
I think I was a guest on Mark's show the evening that Cora was on your show, and you were slightly infatuated, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely. This is the problem, you see, because if we had these dogs that were coming into the studio, I'd now have 20 dogs around me here. But instead, I've just have to basically hope that other people get them. But you should see the amazing reaction. This is one of the things I must say I absolutely love about our GB News viewers. Every single week, they'd come on in their droves and they'd be called. I'd get calls from friends, right, saying, what's the dog of the week? I had to start previewing the dogs to my mates. And I was like, look, you can't get dibs. The only problem was they started pre-ordering them. They would go, can you get an Alsatian? I went, what do you think this is, Crufts?
Look, let's bring in Lee Henderson, the kennel manager at Stray Aid, who facilitated Cora's rescue and rehoming. But let's see what Lee had to say about Cora back in November.
All she needs is the right owner who can put the trust in, and like I said, they'll have the same loyal dog that I see every day.
Oh, and just tilt around a little bit so we can see that lovely face. Yes, there we go. Oh, look.
Oh, yeah.
Such a cutie.
I mean, one of my biggest wishes at the moment is to make sure she gets home for Christmas.
Oh, what a beautiful dog. Lee, firstly, welcome along. Happy Christmas. How does it feel to have your Christmas wish come true? Is Cora happier in her new home? I do hope so.
She certainly is. We're totally overjoyed at the rescue. You know, like I said to Patrick last time, it was my wish to get her home for Christmas. We'd had her 8 month, and you know, luckily the right person came along. So obviously the news clip with the Friday night dog of the week, and obviously got in touch, and they've hit it on like, you know, a house on fire. And she's absolutely adoring her new life, where she's at the moment with Michael. So we're absolutely over the moon for her.
It is lovely because, I mean, all around the country, clearly, there are rescue centres like yourselves doing amazing jobs, obviously always needing extra funding, but trying to find those dogs a home. And I know it's a cliche, but they're not just for Christmas, they're for life, aren't they? Of course. But I'm sure, how many have you got, as a matter of fact, in your centre right now that need a home?
In the centre itself, there will be around the 60 mark. It has been busy. I think a lot of it's got to do with the cost of living as well. We are taking a high volume of phone calls, people asking if we can assist, if we can take the dog. It's a big commitment. You know, there's a lot to take on board. It's not just us, it's nationwide. So hopefully, you know, the dogs that we have in the centre, you know, hopefully we will get them homes pretty soon.
I mean, I think what you need, you've got to set yourself a mission, actually, Lee. If I may say that in 2023, there needs to be some way that you can find another Cora so that we can finally make Patrick take a dog on. I know he says maybe that whole hamster thing maybe is just a bit of a cynical excuse, really, but the man loves his dogs. He needs a dog. You have dogs that need a home. We need to find him a dog.
Certainly, you know, Patrick, get in touch. We'll certainly find you the right one. You can come get him.
Oh, look, I mean, see, Patrick, look at that dog. How could you say no? Look, that little black and white one. Short. Look, what is that dog's name, Lee?
It's called Sam, the one behind on your head, son.
I mean, look at that.
Well, she's 10-year-old now, but obviously I took her from Strait. I absolutely adore her. We had a big programme called Paws in the Playground where we used to go to schools teaching kids how to be safe around dogs. And Toffee was the dog that we used.
Wow. Hey, what about that one then, Patrick? How are you feeling? Are you in love?
I'm in love, but I feel incredibly guilty because I just can't have one. Although maybe we need to petition, right, to get GB News to allow me to bring a dog into work every day, because that would solve the problem. We've got a lovely office there. It's right next to a canal. I can take it for walks all the time, and I can have it curled up beneath the desk as I'm presenting the news. But I just wanted to say, Lee, it's great to see you again. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. And it's people like you who make the world go round, dedicating your time to helping out needy and sometimes very vulnerable animals and just showing. I think humans can learn a lot from dogs, right? If you just show them a little bit of love, you get a lot of love back. So it's fantastic stuff. Happy Christmas, everybody. Well done.
Yeah, you are doing a great job, Lee.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a real shame, isn't it? And I guess the cost of living crisis, it makes it, like, they're expensive having a dog. I know having a dog, even though we've got a little one. So, but it's expensive, isn't it? And have you noticed more and more dogs being, or getting more and more phone calls from people?
Yes, I mean, the phone calls, you know, 1 in 3, 1 in 5, somebody's asking for assistance to take the dog, take the cat. We are experiencing a big change in the culture of people owning dogs. It's a lifetime commitment. That's what people have got to realise, that they're not just...
OK. Patrick, I know that if I can just have you on for a minute, just Patrick, if you're still there, we'll have a chat with the bosses for you, but let's be honest, you work here more than I do, so you should have a chat with your boss. But I'm sure Mick and everyone else will be very happy just to have a little dog curled up under your desk. They're nice and quiet, wouldn't they? They make the whole place more relaxed. They make guests more relaxed. It seems to be a win-win-win, doesn't it?
Look, I agree completely, and I know we're all about balance, but any single time I get a Labour MP on, we could set it on him. No, I'm only joking, of course, now. But no, I think it'd be fantastic to get a GB News dog, and just question what we could call it. We might have to call it Nigel or Andrew Neil. We could call it Andrew Heel. How about that? But yeah, no, it'd be fantastic, I think, to do that. And I would absolutely love to have a dog here as well. But I would urge anyone who can just to go and help him out. And also, can I just say as well quickly, you know, look, pedigrees, it's all very well and good to have a designer dog, but I've always found in my life it's better to get a dog from a dog's home or from a rescue home as well. Not only do they tend to live a bit longer, but, you know, you've properly saved a life as well. And it's cheaper.
Yeah, well, no, I'd have to say that it cost me £100 to have my rescue dog from Battersea Dogs Home. It really did. By the way, Lee, you can answer this question, because people have always said to me that if you have, in a way, what I've got is like a mutt, you know, a Heinz 57. It's a bit of a mix of this, that and the other. They say they actually are healthier, dogs like that, and easier and have a better temperament. Is that right, or is that an old wives' tale?
Every dog's different. Every dog's a character. But, yeah, the more they're, let's say, watered down, then yeah, they've got more.
Okay.
I mean, like terriers and staffies and stuff like that, you know, as long as there's something else added, then yeah, they do belong.
Okay, not such a thing as a bad dog, just a bad owner is something that's been said to me a lot. But Lee, look, lovely. Thank you for your continued work, and I do wish you the very best for Christmas, and I hope you have a lovely time with everyone at Stray Aid. And Patrick, nice to see you again. I hope you have a nice Christmas. Good luck with the dog next year. Nice one. All right. We have an amazing 2 hours of opinion, debate and fun coming up on the show. In the big question, following the fallout to his column in The Sun this week, should Jeremy Clarkson himself be cancelled? And in the news agenda, with my panel after the New York Times called for the monarchy to be abolished, we asked, what does the future hold for the royal family?
Good evening, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a mild, often blustery Christmas weekend with some rain around, but by Boxing Day, it is going to turn colder once more. Here's the bigger picture. Low pressure dominating. This weather front has made for a very wet day for some, and that rain now creeping its way steadily across Scotland. And with the cold air here, there will be some snow over the higher routes, in particular the A9 overnight, rain through the central belt, and that should ease. Further south, a few rain showers for Wales, the Midlands, northern England. Many places further south will be dry and clear. Still quite gusty, the winds out there through the night, perhaps easing further south. But generally a pretty mild night with temperatures staying above freezing. There will be a touch of frost perhaps across the Northern Isles. And still some snow in the morning across northern Scotland. Could get down to low levels for a time before that tends to ease off. Many places dry and bright on Saturday, a fine Christmas Eve, but it will again turn quite windy, and there will be showers developing through the day for Northern Ireland and coming into other western areas later. Pretty mild one, double digits for the majority, even across Scotland, 6-7 degrees, a touch above average. Heavy showers then moving across Scotland, parts of northern England and Wales during Christmas Eve night, and the winds picking up as well as we head into Christmas morning. So it's going to be a blustery Christmas Day. There will be rain showers with some brighter spells in between. We could see some more persistent rain across the southeast for a time on Christmas Day. And then we're looking at wetter weather coming into western Scotland later on too. But as I say, in between there will be some brighter spells, and it will be pretty mild, double figures for the majority, 8 or 9 across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Late in the day, the winds switch. We could see some snow showers in the northwest on Christmas Day night. Colder for all of us on Boxing Day, with more snow showers in the northwest, where we do have a Met Office yellow warning in place. Goodbye.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it. But but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hey, welcome along to our festive Friday, and thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm Neil Fox, and I am very excited to be looking after some of Mark Dolan's shows over the Christmas period. Now, in my big opinion, at 9 o'clock, it's been a rough start to Christmas, but you know what? We'll get through it, because we always do. In the big question, following the fallout to his column in The Sun this week about Meghan Markle, should Jeremy Clarkson be cancelled? And in the news agenda with my panel, after the New York Times called for the monarchy to be abolished, what does the future hold for our royal family? Plus, should you have a favourite child? Dangerous. And could you have a successful Christmas with an ex? I'll see you after the headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Neil, thank you. Good evening. I am Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has apologised for Christmas travel disruption as several public sectors go on strike. But he insists refusing to negotiate on pay is the right thing in order to tackle high inflation. Border Force staff are the latest to walk out. Their 8 days of industrial action began today. Military personnel and volunteers from the civil service have been deployed to check passports at affected airports. Rishi Sunak says public sector pay must be controlled.
First of all, I'm really sad and I'm disappointed about the disruption that is being caused to so many people's lives, particularly at Christmas time. What I'm trying to do is make the right long-term decisions for the country, for everybody's benefit. And I think we all know that the major economic challenge we all face now is inflation. It's inflation that's eating into everyone's pay packets, it's rising the cost of living, and I want to make sure that we reduce inflation. Part of that is being responsible when it comes to setting public sector pay.
The Health Secretaries called the newly announced strikes by nurses on the 18th and 19th of January disappointing and says they're in no one's best interests. The Royal College of Nursing says the walkouts will go ahead unless the government opens negotiations over pay. A strike by ambulance workers in England and Wales was planned for next Wednesday, but it's been delayed until the 11th of January. A woman and 2 men have been killed and several others injured after a gunman opened fire at a Kurdish community centre in Paris, prompting violent protests. Demonstrators clashed with police near to where the incident took place, expressing anger at the attack, which authorities believe could be racially motivated. The French president called the incident a heinous attack on the Kurdish community. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police has been detained. It's understood he allegedly attacked a migrant camp last year. And police in the UK have released the first image of a woman who died after being hit by a police car in Oldham. Greater Manchester police say 53-year-old Heather Smedley was struck by the police car as it was chasing a suspected stolen vehicle. She was taken to hospital but died a short time later. Her family say there will be a hole in their hearts forever. And the Sun newspaper has said it regrets publishing a column by Jeremy Clarkson in which he discusses his hatred for the Duchess of Sussex. The Independent Press Standards organisation received more than 20,000 complaints about the article. The Sun has said it is sincerely sorry, and Mr Clarkson said he'll be more careful in future. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now let's get back to Neil.
Right then, on Mark Dolan tonight with me, Neil Fox. In my big opinion, at 9 o'clock, it's been a rough start to Christmas, but we'll get through it, because we always do. In the big question, following the fallout to his column in The Sun this week about Meghan Markle, should Jeremy Clarkson be cancelled, even though he said sorry? In the news agenda with my panel, after the New York Times call for the abolition of the monarchy, we ask, what does the future hold for the royal family? And plus, in slightly dangerous territory for all parents, should you have a favourite child? And can you have a successful Christmas with an ex? Plus, we'll have tomorrow morning papers from 10:30 before anyone else, with full panel reaction as well. Now, my brilliant panel tonight are entrepreneur, actress and reality star is Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. We've got writer and commentator Benedict Spence and journalist and broadcaster Linda Duberly. Now, I want to hear from you throughout the show tonight, so let's get busy. GB Views at gbnews.uk. We'll get to your emails when we can. So for the next 2 hours, big debates, big guests, and always big opinions. So let's start with this one. So it's been a rough start to Christmas, but we'll get through it. We always do. Good evening and welcome along to some festive Fox on Friday. Too many Fs? All right, I'll be careful. It's Christmas Eve, and normally we should already be full of festive cheer, ready to relax with our families, eat way too much and party a little, or maybe a lot. But this has not been a normal year, has it? In fact, it's been a pretty crazy few years. So the fact we have had such a rough run up to Christmas this year makes it feel doubly irritating. A cost of living crisis, the war in Ukraine, chaos in government with 3 different prime ministers in just 1 year, the loss of our longest reigning and hugely loved Queen, and then add in industrial action, strikes and ensuing travel chaos over Christmas, and it's fair to say it's been a rough start to the festive season. But you know what? We're going to get through it because we Brits always do. Now, when I was a kid, I remember the winter of discontent and doing my homework to candlelight. The army were collecting our rubbish and soldiers were manning the green goddesses in place of fire engines. But you know what? We got through it because we always do. Now, my dear old mum sadly died last year, aged 93, and before she passed, she gave me a copy of a letter that she wrote her next-door neighbour's teenage girl, who had asked her to write a short paragraph about what it was like living through World War II. She actually ended up writing 5 pages of A4, and I have to say it made for fascinating reading. Life was imaginably tough and scary. Food was scarce and in very short supply. And, of course, too many people, sadly, never came home. But through it all, there was an optimism and a shared sense of community that brought a nation together through those 6 long years. We'll get through it, they kept saying. And, of course, that generation did. Now, we know at some point in the future there will be consensus and hopefully deals will be done. They need to be deals, of course, that both sides are happy with. Otherwise, let's be honest, it's just going to keep happening again and again. People will stop striking and hopefully they will go back to work. It's not good for them and it's not good for the public. This is a huge moment, of course, in our new PM's premiership. Tough times require tough leadership and hopefully some Christmas common sense from all parties. But one thing I know, we will get through this, and we always do. And you know what? We will have a very Merry Christmas. Mince pie, anyone? Now, let me know what you think. GBnews at gbviews@gbnews.uk. I'll get your emails after the break. Now, reacting to my Big Opinion monologue tonight are my brilliant panel of entrepreneur, actress and reality star Ashleen Horgan-Wallace, political commentator Benedict Spence and journalist and broadcaster Linda Duberly. Right, coming up in the news agenda. Sorry. Hello there, lovely panel. How are you? Welcome and happy Christmas, if that's not too early. How are you guys tonight? Is everyone good? Ashleen, I remember seeing you last week.
Yeah.
So what do you think then? We're going to get through it, aren't we?
Of course we will. I mean, what is there really to get through? It's a little bit tough. Well, it's very tough for a lot of people. But as you said in your monologue, there's been way harder times. And like 2020, didn't Boris cancel Christmas? Of course we're going to get through it. That's what we do.
Benedict, what are your views? How do you sit on this?
The alternative to not getting through Christmas is slightly too morbid, I think, to say out loud. Are we not going to get through Christmas? Is the world going to come to an end? The odds are that we will get through Christmas. And I do tend to be a cynic about most things, but yes, I think it is very likely that we will get through Christmas and that things will get slightly better next year. Now that I've said that, of course, the government will probably set fire to the economy again. But who knows? One can only live in hope.
Linda, good evening. Very nice to have you on this evening. What are your thoughts about what's going on at the moment in the run-up to Christmas?
Well, look, I think it's a pretty dire time, and I think a lot of people are having an incredibly difficult time of it. And I don't like hearing about strikes all the time. It's something that makes you feel very pessimistic. But at the end of the day, just like your mother wrote in her letter, you have to be stoic about these things. You absolutely have to be optimistic, and you have to keep your game up, because as Benedict says, what's the alternative? At the end of the day, you've got to keep cheerful. You've got to get that roast in the oven, get the mince pies done, get the family round the table and start behaving like it's Christmas, because that's the only way forward.
And we're allowed to hug each other now, so...
Do you think, partly the lovely thing about Christmas and the run-up, we all spend far too much, we eat too much, we drink too much. It's all a wonderful distraction, I guess, from, in a way, what I call the real world out there at the moment. And is that a good thing? I presume it must be, because I guess it's what gets us through to the next day, the next week and the next month.
I think there's too much pressure to buy gifts, if I'm honest. And I think that a lot of us feel under pressure to buy the gifts that we could afford a few years ago. And I think when people realise that it's not about the gifts, it's just about family coming together and spending time, I think that's the real importance of Christmas. I saw this wonderful gift on, what's that money expert website?
Martin Lewis.
That's it, thank you. And it's a cheque that you can print out, and on that cheque it says, I promise to, and you can write whatever you want. So spend an hour, I don't know, an hour a month helping you with this activity or that activity, or whatever it is that you want to promise that person, your time. and you're spending time with them, you don't have to spend money. It's not all about money.
OK. As a matter of fact, have any of you three changed your habits this year about maybe the kind of gifts you're buying? Are you slightly more environmentally conscious? Are you slightly more socially conscious, do you think, about gifts you're buying? Have you cut back this year?
Yeah, I have, because my son is he's working for an eco marketing company, and I've gone out. Oh, I can't. I was just about to say what I bought him, but I can't.
Don't ruin the surprise. Only 2 days to go.
Just about to do that. but I do try and keep an eye on things like that, and I try and cook from scratch and make an effort and prepare. And you know, my kids complained at me because they really wanted me to go out and buy a real Christmas tree. And at the end of the day, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go up into the attic and I'm going to get the same one I've had for the last 6 years. I'm going to put that one up because no one had to chop down a tree so that I could have a real one. My daughter said, actually, it's just the smell I love, so just buy us a scented candle. So I went along to a posh shop, bought a candle, the same price as the tree. Oh.
They're not cheap, but they smell good. They smell so lovely, don't they? Benedict, in your opening comments, you made yourself sound a little bit like you're going to be, you know, Scrooge or the Christmas Grinch. Maybe I've got you wrong. But how's your Christmas coming along so far?
I'm going to try and be a little bit contrarian, unlike these two here, who sound very wholesome and like they're going to have very happy Christmases. No, I'm not going to be environmentally friendly. I'm just going to be lazy and not buy any wrapping paper. Nothing to do with saving trees. I just don't want to, and I can't be bothered. Is it all about the gifts? Absolutely, yes, it is. I'm like a Viking on Christmas morning. I go through everything, and if I don't have exactly what I want, there will be vengeance. There will be terrible punishments for those who did not get me what I want. And yes, in those circumstances, I can be rather Scrooge-like. But, you know, if you get me that Skeletric set or, you know, the Lego, everything will be fine. Everything will be kosher. But I will be back next year for the next part of the Danegeld, put it that way.
Being serious for a minute, so on the news, obviously, with Bethany a bit earlier on, we saw the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, talking about he's obviously disappointed that there are strikes on at the moment. This is a pretty big moment for him in his premiership, isn't it? Clearly, he had to deal with the economy when he first came in, because that was an absolute free fall at that moment. That looks like things have calmed down. This is the next big challenge. How do you think he's going to deal with it, and how do you think over this Christmas period things are going to move forward?
Well, I think that... can I answer? Sorry. I just went in there. I just think that he's... I said it last week. He needs to put his Thatcher hat on, and it seems like he's doing that. He can't bend to every request. You just can't, because then there's going to be a knock-on effect to the economy. So I think he's doing a good job of being quite strict and saying, no, it's not going to happen.
Linda, what do you think?
I think he's got to engage, actually. I think it's really important that he communicates effectively with all the union leaders. And at the moment, the big complaint is that he's not getting round the table, he's not engaging, and he's not acting like a leader. And that's going to be a real problem, because we're less than 2 years away now, by my calculation, to another general election. And I think if he carries on behaving this way, the Conservatives are going to have a serious, serious problem when it comes to encouraging voters into the ballot box.
Because the only way a deal's ever going to be done, isn't it, with people sitting around a table and actually knocking heads together and coming up with some form of compromise. It's the only way it'll ever happen. But it's got to be one, I guess, that all parties are happy with to move forward. Otherwise, it just happens again and again and again, doesn't it, down the line?
Yeah, but if he just keeps agreeing to, you know, something that's going to make everyone happy, it's going to happen again next year regardless.
I think he's made a bit of a rod for his own back, in that he's already come to the table with one section of the society, with the Criminal Bar Association, with the lawyers. He's already come and he's done a deal with them. Quite a good deal, actually. Not what they wanted, but he has done that. But, of course, that was because, you know, in some cases, trials were being pushed back for 3 years. You know, you can't have murderers and rapists and thieves, you know, sort of awaiting trial for 3 years. So that had to be done. But the second, of course, that one is done, then more will have to be done in the future. What I think Mr Sunak is doing, and I do think it's quite smart, is holding off for as long as he can, because there's a lot of sympathy, for example, for the nurses and the ambulance drivers. A lot of sympathy for them. A lot less, I think, for example, rail staff or border force personnel. What he wants is for all of these strikes, you know, sympathy for the nurses to be sort of caught up with the lack of sympathy, perhaps, for other striking workers. And then in the new year, they will come to the table and they will offer them a decent deal. Not exactly what they want, but they will offer them a deal. And there will be, I think, increased pressure at that point, especially if it has been a difficult Christmas period, amongst NHS staff, for example, to actually agree to what the government puts in front of them, because a lot of public support that is there at the moment, perhaps, has waned because, of course, the idea is everybody is going on strike, not just the nurses or the ambulance drivers.
Benedict and Linda and Ashleen, thank you very much. For now, we will be coming back to you, obviously, during the show. Coming up in the news agenda, my panel will be talking about the New York Times call for the monarchy to be abolished. We ask, what does the future hold for the royal family? But next, in the big question, should Jeremy Clarkson be cancelled? Right, get your kettle on or something stronger. I'll see you back here in 3.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents. Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Hello there and welcome back to your festive Friday. I hope you're having a nice evening. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Neil Fox, looking after things for Mark Dolan tonight. Some great emails coming in. Thank you very much indeed. As always, talk about dogs and it all goes bonkers. So let's go with a few here. Andy says, please can a petition be started for a GB dog to be provided for Patrick and all the staff of the studio? My border terriers, Norman and Stanley, would love it as they watch GB News too. And Matilda says, can a petition also be started to make sure that Patrick can have a dog in the office? He can't take his hamster for walks. Well, he could, but it looked bloody stupid, let's be honest. But would the bosses at least allow him to bring his hamster into work while deciding the dog decision? A lot more dog news and emails coming in. Thank you very much indeed. Ingrid Tarrant was in talking about trying to stop a housing development on Greenbelt near her land in Surrey. And there are lots of these similar situations around the country. John says we do not necessarily need more houses. We've got an immigration crisis that must be cured. We are told our population is not growing. Ergo, if we control immigration, we do not need more houses. Doug says we should not go mad on expensive area-killing house building. We need to go up, not sideways. Lots coming in about music, but we're going to talk more about Christmas music a little bit later on after 10 o'clock. And I've got to tell you, before we've even started talking about this, oh my goodness, we have got some reaction for you about Jeremy Clarkson. So it's time for this. So it's time for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day. Now, tonight, The Sun have apologised now for publishing Jeremy Clarkson's column about Meghan Markle, which has broken all watchdog records. The Independent Press Standards Organisation received over 17,000 complaints about the article, in which Clarkson said he dreams of the day when Meghan Markle is made to parade naked through the streets while crowds throw lumps of excrement at her. Now, The Sun says the article has been removed from their website and archives, and Clarkson, too, has apologised and said he was horrified to have caused so much hurt. But people are still angry at his comments. So, should Jeremy Clarkson be cancelled? There's the big question. To discuss this, I'm delighted to be joined by writer and research fellow at the Bow Group, Benjamin Loughnane, and author and journalist Rebecca Reid. So, Benjamin, welcome along. Very nice to have you on. Simple question. Should Jeremy Clarkson be cancelled?
No, I think, look, it was a joke. It was very clearly a joke. But I always say if a joke is more offensive than it is funny, then it's not funny. You probably shouldn't tell it. But that's no reason to call for someone to be put in prison. I mean, there were people on Twitter literally saying this is a hate crime and Jeremy Clarkson should be locked up and should never work again. Now, I think that's obviously a bit too far. You can say that the joke wasn't funny and he shouldn't have told it. But I think also turning around and saying that The Sun should not have published it, well, that's ludicrous. Many newspapers publish many things which aren't funny and which miss the mark. That's the part of journalism. You know, it's up to the reader to decide whether they like it or not, and to decide whether they buy the paper or not on the basis of what they do and do not like. I think turning around and saying we need to throw him in prison and ruin his career and, you know, get rid of The Sun as a paper altogether is, you know, typical of this bloodthirsty mob mentality where the slightest thing goes against common decency or the new morality and the mob starts up.
All right, Benjamin. Well, look, Rebecca, I've got a funny feeling you're not going to entirely agree with that point of view. So what do you think, then? Firstly, about the article and about Jeremy Clarkson and this whole idea of cancelling people. I hate it, I have to be honest. People can be reprimanded, but this whole cancelling culture has gone slightly crazy. What do you feel, though, about the article and the amount of complaints it got?
I didn't like the article personally. I thought it was misjudged because in order to understand that it was a joke, you needed to have watched a specific episode of Game of Thrones. And actually, just as a writer, I don't feel like you're doing your job if somebody needs to have watched a specific episode of a TV show to be able to understand the joke that you're making. I would agree that he shouldn't be thrown in prison, he shouldn't lose his home, he shouldn't be burned at the stake. And the issue with cancel culture is that we burn very bright and very fast. So you get so angry and it's all anybody can talk about for a week and then we forget about it. It's the same thing that happened when he punched that TV producer. And actually, we would do better to be more moderated and more modulated in our anger and then talk about, why does this happen? Why is the state of journalism such that people need to say such provocative things in order to get attention? That's a productive discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I have watched the first 2 episodes, obviously, of Harry and Meghan's Netflix series. And I have to be honest, in the first 2, I thought they came across very nicely. But I know after that, things change somewhat. And obviously, the content gets slightly more provocative, it has to be said. Firstly, have you seen the series yourself, Benjamin? Have you watched all 6?
No, I've done everything I possibly can to avoid watching it. I've heard their side of their story already, and I think giving it any more attention and airtime, which I think was part of the joke that Clarkson was making. He was saying, I lie awake at night worrying about this. What he was actually saying was, I don't actually care about these people. They want us to care so much about them. So he was exaggerating the amount that we care. But I think most people in this country are actually just a bit bored of them and don't want to be exposed to them. But to get back to Rebecca's point about how you can't make a reference in case people don't get it, well, then that means you can't make any references at all in journalism. You can't make literary references. You can't make cultural references. You can't make any kind of references at all, because someone might not understand the reference and get offended. And as far as references go, it's not an obscure one. Game of Thrones is one of the most popular shows in the current time. I mean, a lot of people will get that reference.
Rebecca Reed, have you watched the series, as a matter of fact?
The Meghan and Harry series?
Yeah.
Yes, I watched all 6 because I'm a messy who loves drama. And I loved them and I enjoyed them, and they're ridiculous. And it's like Wallace and Edward all over again. But I also watch The Kardashians. I'm not watching this because I love great art. I'm watching it because I love watching other people's families tear each other apart. Just to respond to the point about references, I just think good writing means that you shouldn't leave your reader alienated. And if a very significant portion of the people who read this column were unable to understand that this wasn't like a weird fantasy Jeremy Clarkson was having, it was a specific allusion to something that happened. And clearly it wasn't delivered with the right mechanism to make people understand it. And I always take the view as a writer that if a very large portion of people who read my piece were upset by it, and that happens to me a lot, that's on me. I haven't done my job properly. I haven't delivered it clearly enough.
OK. Benjamin, just a thought here. I mean, you said, obviously, he, in his article, is making reference. He's just had enough of them. He doesn't really care a monkeys about Meghan and Harry. And yet, of course, he has devoted an entire article about them because he knows by being deliberately provocative, it is going to get column inches and it will be read and it will be talked about. I mean, on this occasion, do you not think, to be fair, he just went too far? It wasn't funny. Yeah, this is one he got wrong. I mean, I'm a huge Jeremy Clarkson fan. I think he's very funny, very witty, very clever. But on this one, I thought some of the language he used, not funny, not pleasant, actually pretty unpleasant, to be fair. And he just misjudged it all.
As I said earlier, I think, you could be as offensive as you want as long as you're more funny than offensive. You can get away with it. But it just wasn't that funny. That was the problem. It was quite a cheap reference, not particularly comical at all. There wasn't many humoristic elements going into it. It was just a bit gratuitous. So I think people didn't find it particularly funny, so they focused on the offensive thing. But in terms of the references debate, I mean, it's not the job of a writer to spoon feed to the reader every tiny bit of reference. You have to trust that your readers can go away and do their own research if they don't get a reference. And if they don't happen to not get a reference, they don't then have a right to turn around and burn you at the stake and ruin your career and throw you in prison. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. We need to put a little bit more responsibility on readers to actually do their research before reacting in such a quick and aggressive way to one tiny little thing of piece of offence that they've rooted out of an article, and then they turn around and call for him to go to prison. I mean, people were literally calling for the man to go to prison instead of doing some research into a very popular cultural reference.
But let's be honest, these are people who use social media a lot. I mean, some of the stuff you read on social media is insane, let's be honest, sometimes. And it's very easy to sit there and just type away all kinds of nonsense. Not really. I mean, if you actually sat in front of Jeremy Clarkson or whoever people are normally saying stuff against, they never would they? It's very easy, I think, on social media to do that. One of the problems. But to be fair, he's a very accomplished journalist, isn't he? And I was going to say, Rebecca, what do you think should happen now? The Sun have apologised. Jeremy's kind of apologised for saying, I didn't realise it was going to cause so much offence. I kind of think he knew it was, but not quite as much as it's probably caused. Feelings about Jeremy?
There's no way that he knew the extent. I think that Jeremy Clarkson has done some fantastic stuff for the farming community in the last couple of years, and honestly, I would say that that's where he's most useful right now. I would say in terms of the outrage more generally, I have a personal rule, and I apply this to people on the left and on the right. If the exact same photograph of a portion of an article is doing the rounds online, that means that the people sharing it haven't read the article. That is one photograph. And that is, in this case, there is only one photograph that's doing the rounds, because the people who are angry about it don't read The Sun. And that means that he hasn't angered his readers, he's angered people on Twitter. And that is a very different problem. So I would always say, if you're really upset about something, go to the shop. You don't have to buy it, but read the newspaper in the shop, or buy the newspaper and then use it for recycling, but read the full article first, because sometimes things are taken out of context. Jeremy personally probably have a quiet Christmas, maybe send Meghan Markle an apology note and focus on the farming, because that's where he's really useful.
And Benjamin, your thoughts on... The Sun said it's sorry that it ever published the article. I mean, clearly they have great editorial team there. They are one of our institutions. They knew full well what they were unleashing, but obviously they had no idea what the backlash would be. What do you make of their apology?
Well, it's all well and good saying it's just crazy people on Twitter who get outraged at this. But, you know, if the Sun have actually apologised, then clearly those crazy people on Twitter have quite a bit of influence. And we can't let people do this. You can't let a load of very easily offended people pressure major papers into apologising for articles which were effectively just a clumsy joke that didn't land properly. I mean, when you get to that extent, it really does threaten free speech. And I know this probably isn't a free speech issue, but there is a free speech issue, a broader free speech issue in terms of other articles. What is it that editors are now going to be too reticent to commission or to publish because they know, oh, what if Twitter respond in a certain way and we have to issue apologies and retractions because we're too cowardly to defend our writers? I mean, there is a real serious knock-on effect from these sorts of things. And obviously it's a stupid issue. This particular issue isn't the same as serious journalism. But I do think the culture that's developing around Twitter being able to demand apologies from newspapers is completely backwards. We shouldn't allow these people, because Twitter is not a real place. It's a load of people who behave very differently to how they would in real life. If they were confronted with these people in the street, in person, they wouldn't be saying the same things. They wouldn't be screaming and shouting in the same way. It's something about being behind a keyboard, behind a screen, with that sort of separation from reality, makes people into complete tyrants.
Yeah, and I think actually that is the power of social media. I think actually one that we all three of us agree on, even though we might be on slightly different sides of this story. But thank you very much indeed to the pair of you. I wish you both a very lovely Christmas. Research fellow at the Bow Group, Benjamin Loughlin, author and journalist Rebecca Reid, thank you for being on the show. Much appreciated. Have a good evening. Well, coming up, we got the papers at 10:30 with full panel reaction. And also next up, the New York Times have called for the monarchy to be abolished. Seriously? We ask, what does the future hold for the royal family?
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
As a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to your Friday night. I hope you're having a very nice one. Joining me throughout the show is my all-star panel. We got entrepreneur, actress and reality star Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. We got writer and commentator Benedict Spence. And we got journalist and broadcaster Linda Duberly. Right, welcome along. It's very nice to have you all here. And Benedict, I have to say one thing. Do you know, during lockdown, I remember seeing you a lot on TV with a very strange moustache.
Yes.
Yeah, thank God.
I grew a moustache.
Yeah, you did, no.
Yeah. Oh, see, now you remember.
Thank God it went. There you go.
I got out of Mexico. It's okay now.
OK. Well, we had an awful lot of emails, I have to say, come in, as you can imagine, about the Harry, Meghan and Jeremy Clarkson debate that was going on a moment ago. And now, keeping on the royal theme, of course, it's fair to say that this year has been a pretty difficult one for the monarchy after the passing of the late Queen. We've got race rows at the palace and, of course, Harry and Meghan with their Netflix show. And none of it looks like it's going to end soon. All of this has raised questions as to whether the monarchy has a future, with a recent headline in the New York Times reading, "Is it time to abolish the monarchy?" So tonight we ask, has the monarchy got a bright future, or is it something that's now on the decline? So, Linda, what do you think?
Sometimes I get a bit tired of the New York Times bashing this drum. I really, really do. At the end of the day, who are they to ask whether we should get rid of our monarchy?
Yeah.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, at the end of the day, we've got a monarchy. We need to take care of it. We need to be very careful about how we engage with the media, because actually, Benedict and I were talking a few moments ago before we came on air. There may be a problem with the royal family opening the door a little bit too wide to the media many decades ago, and now it's getting wider and wider and wider, and it's harder to control. And that's one thing that did come out in the Netflix documentary. And although I'm kind of aware of it as a journalist, I don't think the general public will be aware of this kind of tacit agreement between the comms people in the palace and media people about how the whole thing is handled. That, I do think, surprised people, and that is the kind of thing that weakens the monarchy.
Yeah, because the one thing that really stood out to me in the first two episodes watching of that was, and you kind of forget very quickly, but, you know, when Harry was at school and he came out one day and there weren't just a lot of journalists. I mean, there were hundreds. There was like the world's press outside. And you think you're 14, 15 years of age and you go, I know you are the Prince of England and all that, but still, as a young man, do you need that? And I think you're absolutely right. Do we need... do you remember years ago when they did the It's a Knockout, which became a fiasco, but it was their sort of first attempt to try and be a little bit more public-facing and be a bit more open and modern, and that one obviously went badly wrong. So, Benedict, where do you sit on this? I mean, obviously, do you love our monarchy?
I don't feel that strongly about it. I'm not sort of against it or anything like that. I tend to view the monarchy very much through the prism of it saves us from having a President Liz Truss or a President Boris Johnson or a President Tony Blair, and I'm fully on board with that because the calibre of our politicians is somewhat even worse than the calibre of our royals. So I thank the Lord that we are saved from that misfortune. I do think that it's probably on the decline simply because I don't think that there are that many people prepared to fight for it, possibly because they all feel like me, not that strongly about it. Even those people who are royalists are sort of royalists in the same way that a lot of people are members of the Church of England. They might have, a lot of the traditions, or perhaps were baptised when they were young, but it's not really a central part of their lives. On the subject of the New York Times running a piece saying that the monarchy should be abolished, the first thing you need to remember is the New York Times is the paper of the US elite, and America is in the business of regime change around the world, and it hasn't overthrown a government in some time. So obviously they're getting itchy feet.
Getting itchy feet, yeah.
But we need to remember a couple of things. It's not a British paper. It shouldn't really be for British people.
Exactly right.
We don't read La Repubblica or Corriere della Sera because we don't tend to speak the same language. We only read this newspaper because it's retweeted by people in the Anglosphere. It doesn't necessarily matter. The other thing to remember is they do this very deliberately because they know that it riles us up. They know that we retweet the articles, that we read them, and that it gets traffic. All of this is a massive effort to increase traffic, to increase advertising revenue. So if you don't like what the New York Times has to say, it's very simple. Don't read it, don't click on it. Exactly. You can't even buy it on most newsstands. So why on earth is it having any kind of impact in your life? Let them overthrow the government of El Salvador. Let them criticise, Russia's administration. That's fine. Let them do what they want. That's what they do. It's nothing to do with us.
The royal family clearly are in a very interesting position right now. Queen Elizabeth II died, our longest ever monarch. And you can see the outpouring in a way of love and respect for her, and everything she did in those 70 years was actually quite overwhelming, I thought. Not here, but around the world, people could feel it. So now we've got King Charles and now he has to try and establish himself. What kind of king, what kind of monarch, and what kind of monarchy are we going to have? So, Aisling, to start with, what do you think of the monarchy?
Oh, I love the monarchy. And who in New York, like you said, who in New York Times to dictate to us what their feelings are on our monarchy? They don't have one.
But do you love them as people or do you love them as an institution?
No, I think there's been a lot of... As an institution, yeah. Well, I love the Queen. I don't have a problem with King Charles, unless he's got a problem with me, maybe.
I think you'd be OK there, to be fair. But, yeah.
I mean, there are some other really dubious characters, and I think that it needs to be slimmed down quite a lot.
Which is what they're talking about right now.
Yeah, exactly. King Charles is
royal
about
history
that
is
now.
full of dubious characters. That's what makes it exciting, is princes backstabbing each other and raising armies in France. I want to see more of that.
I mean, wasn't it...
Well, I mean, you say that there weren't any. We don't know. That just didn't get into the chronicle.
But I mean, you look at our history, look at Henry VIII, look what we've had.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable, really.
It was only a couple of years ago that the Sunday Times described Buckingham Palace as being almost the same as Wolf Hall, the name of the famous book by Hilary Mantel about the court of Henry VIII. And actually, in 400 years, not that much has changed. I mean, this is a 1,000-year-old monarchy. How have they stayed top of the heap for so long? It's by being very, very disciplined and occasionally quite ruthless.
Yeah.
That's why they are where they are.
I think you need to say, actually, monarchies around the world that are quite ruthless, even the ones we don't necessarily like, those tend to be the ones that are very successful. You look at, we were talking in the break, it won't be about the Gulf countries, about places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia. There's a reason that those countries are still monarchies, whereas, for example, across the rest of the Arab world, they had revolutions just 10 years ago. If you look at the Far East, you look at countries like Thailand, these are not necessarily royal families that we like or that behave very well, but they have that sort of ruthless streak in the way that ours doesn't. Now, it's good that we don't have that kind of ruthless streak where journalists are being put in jail and what have you, but it is that other side of the coin. Is there a lack of steadfastness there? Is there too much of a desire to please the public or the press, to give them what they want? Because that way, I think, decline does
Yeah,
lie.
I think that's a really big mistake. I mean, at the end of the day, we probably don't want a bicycle-riding kind of monarchy the way they do
like
have.
Yeah.
But we just don't want that, because what the Queen's death did show us, and what the funeral did show us, is that the tremendous compassion shown by the pageantry and the ceremony and the seriousness was incredibly resonant around the world.
Exactly.
And that's what our monarchy stands for.
But it's also what we do as a nation so well that other ones do not know.
Yes.
I mean, I guess this entire article in the New York Times has really stemmed from the outburst and all the hoo-ha around Harry and Meghan's
Well, because
Netflix
Americans,
thing.
and I work with a couple of them, are very, very pro-Meghan. So they are going to support that end of the argument.
Do you think it will harm the monarchy at all, this series?
No, it'll make no difference at all. The New York Times won't make any difference.
No, but the series. Do you think the series could have any impact?
Not. There's not enough in it. I mean, I was quite surprised. I've watched all 6 episodes. I think this, the kind of axis, the tacit, unspoken agreements between the palace and the media might surprise some people. I think that the trolling of Meghan and some of that hateful stuff really did surprise me, and it surprised many other people as well. It was deeply unpleasant. But I absolutely don't think that the Netflix documentary series will make much of a difference, nor do I think that Harry's book in January will make much difference either. I think it will blow over.
Yeah, but we'll all read it. And we'll all be fascinated. And then we'll be back talking about it all over again. No doubt, I'm sure we will. Right, coming up in the next hour in My Take at 10, why the power of music is so important. It's been part of my life for so long, and we all love it. Especially, though, at Christmas time. Plus, tomorrow morning's front pages at 10:30. with full panel reaction to what's on the front page. I think we know what that's going to be. But next, we reflect on an eventful year in politics. We'll see you in 3.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Welcome back to your Friday night. My goodness, you have been very busy on the emails. Thank you very much indeed. gbviews@gbnews.uk. If you want to get involved, thank you. Let's read a few out. Shabina, good evening, Shabina. What have the Americans got to do with the British royal family? New York Times and the rest need to butt out of matters that don't concern them. They have their own royal family and Harry and Meghan. Focus on them and leave us alone. Sue says the New York Times needs to keep its nose out of British business. What has our monarchy got to do with them? It's our monarchy and we love both it and the royal family. Adrian says, what on earth does it matter what those communists think? Now, don't you sit on that fence, Adrian. You tell us what you think, all right? It's the New York Times that should be abolished. And then Steve says, Foxy, who is the New York Times to call for the abolition of our royal family? Perhaps if they concentrated on Sleepy Joe a bit more, they'd get their act together over there. And I have to be honest, Jeremy Clarkson has caused quite a bit of controversy, so thank you very much indeed for getting in contact. Michael says, I can't believe we're giving any credence to people who read Jeremy Clarkson's column and expected a sermon. David says he should not be cancelled. Actually, bizarrely, I think out of all, we all agreed there's no way he should be cancelled. A rap on the wrist. He said sorry. They've said sorry. Hopefully, that'll be the end of the matter. but I do think he probably knew what he was writing. He's a clever man. Susan says, no, leave Jeremy and cancel Meghan and Harry. Everyone's sick of their victim culture. They need a shake-up. And one last one here. Stuart says, OK, so 20,000 people without a sense of humour complained about what he said, but how many had no concerns with what he said? Possibly all those that didn't scream and shout and just accepted it for what it was. It had humour. Anyway, Stuart, thank you for all your different views. Keep them coming in. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Now, 2022 has been a year of ups and downs for the nation's leading political figures, with Truss and Johnson both losing power, Starmer's Labour surging ahead in the polls, DJ Rayner rocking the decks, and Hancock eating jungle critters. Slightly cringy. Has it just been a one-off crazy year in British politics, or is brand politician something that's here to stay, thereby changing the political landscape forever? I hope not. To discuss this with me is Boris Johnson's former advisor, Kulveer Ranger. Kulveer, welcome along. How are you? Nice to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you, Neil. And delighted to share the airwaves with you, a legendary figure who I grew up listening to. And I've got some vinyl out in honour of you as well tonight.
Thank you. I did also exist in the CD era as well, so thank you. But look, Kulveer, look, and I know you're not going to be sort of overly right biased here. We're just going to talk as politicians in general, having worked in the inner sanctum with Boris Johnson. Are this sort of branded politicians, is this the way now of the future? I guess we saw it, firstly, in many respects. Well, actually, I think we saw it with Tony Blair to start with, before Boris Johnson. And in America, we saw it with JFK all those years ago, really creating a kind of brand of leadership. But nowadays, is this the way to go? Are they being totally, in a way, designed and shaped by what people are saying about them on social media?
Well, you mentioned two major political figures there, JFK, Tony Blair, but we do have to differentiate that we have not a presidential system. So US politics is very different. It does focus in on the president very much as an individual. In the UK, in Britain, our politics has been party politics, but over the last few decades, as you quite rightly pointed out, especially since Tony Blair's term, it has started to focus more and more on leadership and the individual. Now, partly that's due because Tony Blair coincided with 24-hour rolling news emerging as well. And content is required. People are focusing in more on political figures, who they are, what their interests are. And the disinfectant of scrutiny becomes all that more intense when newspapers and TV are looking to fill the airwaves. But we've seen it grow also now, and exponentially over the last few years with social media. It can't be ignored. The Twitter, all the social media channels, the kind of generation of interest and challenge and noise that it generates is more intrusive, it's more personal, and it does examine politicians even more. So even those tiny flaws, large flaws, the cracks that they all have become that much more magnified and that much more part of our lives and the narrative around us.
Can I ask you one question, Kulveer? Because it seems to me that the more that we, in a way, treat them, I hate to say the word like celebrities, but like any other famous figure out there, the more, in a way, they find it hard to actually function as a proper politician. Is it getting in the way of people doing their job?
I think probably what's happening is that the role of the politician is evolving. It used to be said that politics was celebrity for ugly people. Well, we see a lot of politicians now. We see a lot of them, and it's no longer. I think they're merging into becoming figures in our lives that we hear so much more about, and their all-roundedness. And you mentioned Angela Rayner in the intro, and we'll touch on a few of them, but even her life story has become quite the conversation this year. I think actually she's had a tremendous year as a politician. I think she's grown in stature. I think a number of things have been said about her personal background. We know her backstory as a single mother, but a number of ways that she's described herself. Her language, her approach may not be to the taste of most people, or a lot of people. There is an audience that she is a voice for, and she's resonating with them, and she's also engaging with them through different channels, be that through mainstream media or be that through social media and going out there and DJing, as you mentioned. But then we have others, people like Matt Hancock, who are leaving the political stage. But whereas former politicians would sort of step away and go into corporate life or something, Matt Hancock's now part of reality TV and has a book coming out and will be probably sort of evolving into a different kind of figure that we will still probably see commentating on politics, if not playing a daily part in it. So we're seeing a real transition of what it means to be a modern-day politician.
Very quickly, thoughts on Sir Keir Starmer and how he needs to evolve or is evolving as a sort of brand?
Yes, I think Sir Keir Starmer really does need to do something because he has, well, his party is lifted in the polls dramatically, obviously, and we all know that. But he's been lifted by a rising tide rather than more anything he's done dramatically himself. He is slowly making the Labour Party more a party of a government in waiting. Now, that cannot be denied because of what the Conservatives have done over the last 12 months. But he needs to do more. He needs to really demonstrate his leadership style so that people can understand who he is, what he is. And I think from that, he could take a...
I'm going to have to cut you off, but thank you so much.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
It's Mark Dolan tonight with me, Neil Fox, and coming up this hour in my Take at 10, why the power of music is so very important, especially at Christmas. The British tech company who have prescribed music as medicine. Plus tomorrow morning's front pages at 10:30 sharp with full panel reaction. And in the news agenda, should you have a favourite child? And can you have a successful Christmas with an ex? But first, the headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Neil, thank you. Good evening. I am Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has apologised for Christmas travel disruption as several public sectors go on strike. But he insists refusing to negotiate on pay is the right thing in order to tackle high inflation. Border Force staff are the latest to walk out. Their 8 days of industrial action began today. Military personnel and volunteers from the civil service have been deployed to check passports at affected airports. Rishi Sunak says public sector pay must be controlled.
Sad and I'm disappointed about the disruption that is being caused to so many people's lives, particularly at Christmas time. What I'm trying to do is make the right long-term decisions for the country, for everybody's benefit. And I think we all know that the major economic challenge we all face now is inflation. It's inflation that's eating into everyone's pay packets, it's rising the cost of living, and I want to make sure that we reduce inflation. Part of that is being responsible when it comes to setting public sector pay.
The Health Secretary has called the newly announced strikes by nurses on the 18th and 19th of January disappointing and says they're in no one's best interests. The Royal College of Nursing says the walkouts will go ahead unless the government opens up negotiations on pay. A strike by ambulance workers in England and Wales planned for next Wednesday has been delayed until the 11th of January. A woman and 2 men have been killed and several others injured after a gunman opened fire at a Kurdish community centre in Paris. Protesters clashed with police near to where the incident took place, expressing anger at the attack, which authorities believe could be racially motivated. The French President Emmanuel Macron called the incident a heinous attack on the Kurdish community. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police has been detained. The US Congress has passed a £37 billion emergency aid bill for Ukraine. The record military funding follows President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Washington on Wednesday. It was his first foreign trip since the start of Russia's invasion. The bill, which passed only hours before the midnight deadline, was hotly contested by Conservative Republicans, who raised concerns about the level of US support for Ukraine. But earlier this week, President Joe Biden says Americans would stand with the Ukrainian people for as long as it takes. And the Sun newspaper has said it regrets publishing a column by Jeremy Clarkson in which he discusses his hatred for the Duchess of Sussex. The Independent Press Standards Organisation received more than 20,000 complaints about the article. The Sun has said it's sincerely sorry, and Mr Clarkson said he'd be more careful in future. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now let's get back to Neil.
Right, welcome to your Friday night. It's Mark Dolan tonight with me, Neil Fox. And in the news agenda with my panel, should you have a favourite child? And can you have a successful Christmas with an ex? Plus, we'll have tomorrow morning's papers from 10:30 sharp with full panel reaction. Now, my brilliant panel tonight are entrepreneur, actress and reality star Ashleen Horgan-Wallace. We've got writer and commentator Benedict Spence and journalist and broadcaster Linda Duberly. Now, I do want to hear from you throughout the show. You've been brilliant so far this Friday night, so please get involved to gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'll get to your emails a little bit later when we can. So for the next hour, big debates, big guests and always big opinions. But first, my take at 10. Now, one thing that differentiates our wonderful nation from the rest of the world is our slight obsession about who claims the Christmas #1 spot in the charts. From Bing Crosby and Andy Williams to Slade, Wizzard, Wham, Elton, Queen, Shakin' Stevens and Boney M to Mariah Carey and, of course, that entire Michael Bublé Christmas album. The list goes on and on and on and gets played on what seems like a constant loop on every radio station across the nation. Can you imagine, though, Christmas without them? It just would not be the same. The charts were 70 years old this year, which means we've had 70 Christmas number ones. For 12 years on the Pepsi chart, I had the great pleasure of revealing them and talking to the artists who had them year by year. Then for a few years, which we call the X Factor years, we had the X Factor winners always claiming the top spot. It became a bit too inevitable, and so there was a backlash. A new phenomenon started, campaigns to make sure they didn't win, with songs being released to stop Simon Cowell's latest prodigies from succeeding. It started with Rage Against the Machine, and for the last 5 years, a band called Lad Baby have done it. Well done them, of course. That's more than the Beatles, just for the record. But let's be honest, I can never see them becoming one of our perennial Christmas favourites. Music is magical. And it's powerful, as we will hear more about in just a few minutes. And although we are slightly obsessed with our Christmas number ones, all those Christmas classics are a bit like old friends, aren't they? We love them, and without doubt, they help change our moods. And with the run-up to Christmas we have had this year, boy, do we need them now. Jingle your bells. Right, let me know what you think. Maybe your favourite Christmas song, just for a bit of light-hearted Friday festive fun. GB Views at GB News, or anything else that we've talked about on the show so far. It's been quite healthy as a reaction, I have to be honest. Now, reacting to my take at 10 tonight are my brilliant panel, entrepreneur, actress and reality star Aisling Horgan-Wallace, leading political commentator without the moustache, Benedict Spence, and journalist and broadcaster Linda Duberly. So then, Christmas songs panel. Got a favourite? Aisling?
Oh, it's got to be Mariah Carey, come on. Did you ever meet her? Please say you did.
I have met Mariah on many occasions, and she's crazy, barking mad, but rather lovely too, it has to be said. Yes.
Perfect, just like me. I love her. And they say that they defrost her every year for Christmas, and I just love when she's defrosted. It's my favourite artist of all time. And it just, yeah, as you said in your monologue, music lifts the soul. So at this time of year, we need it even more because it's been so hard. It's been a hard 3 years. Music has got me through the last 3 years, so it's getting me through this Christmas as well. I love it.
It's sure. I mean, you think of COVID and everything that happened during those lockdowns. I think, you know, music helped keep us all slightly sane, to be fair. Radio had a resurgence. Music radio did. Well, to be fair, talk radio did as well. People were glued to their sets because we couldn't go out. And, of course, with all the, I suppose, doom and gloom and the tough news that is out there that we're all facing in our lives, the reality of what's going on, there's no doubt that hearing some great Christmas songs does put us all in a good mood. Benedict? So, Mr. Grinch, favourite Christmas song, or is that just a ridiculous question to ask?
Please say Mariah.
I really do like The Grinch, the film, actually. I'm just putting it out there. I watch it every year.
Do you feel some kind of kinship to it?
I do. I sit there with a great big smile on my face going, finally, my people are represented. It's fantastic. I don't know, In Dulce Jubilo or The Darkness, you know, because I'm not a normal person, if you hadn't already worked it out. Probably, yeah, one of those two. Those are probably my favourite.
The Darkness. The Darkness, actually, one of those great tongue-in-cheek song titles. Christmas time, Don't Let the Bells End. Don't
Fantastic band, UK's greatest band from East Anglia, where I hail from. Magnificent people, fantastic.
Linda?
Never heard of them.
You got a favourite song, Linda?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be very, very unpopular because actually I don't, generally speaking, I don't like any Christmas records. They really, really irritate me every year. I mean, I'm big on a roast dinner, I'm big on my family, I'm big on midnight mass, I'm big on loads of things about Christmas. And it's not that I don't believe in the uplifting power of music. I do. I just don't like Christmas records. But
even Mariah?
No, even Mariah. I am so sorry.
What?
But even Mariah. But I quite like that one about travelling home from Christmas, but I can't remember who sings it.
Chris Rea.
That's it.
Do you not think it's a slightly sweeping statement to say there's not one Christmas song I like? Linda, there must be one.
No, but that one, I like that one, but it's not a sweeping statement for me. They just get churned out every year, and I don't normally switch the channel. I just, you know...
Now who's the Grinch?
Music in general, though, is, and particularly maybe at the moment with these tough times, it's always a wonderful distraction, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Whether we're watching music, going to see live music, which has been great since lockdown, of course, artists finally being able to get back out there and perform live, but also just as the general distraction of, I guess, the madness that is going on in our real world that we're talking about all day and every day. So, Aisling, I mean, has music ever lifted your spirits when you've been really down? We must have all had times when we've had a really crappy day.
Yeah, you've took the words out of my mind. So basically, like, I do suffer from depression, and the only thing that lifts me out of that certain times is just putting my favourite music on, songs from my teens, songs associated with good memories, and it literally is my one pill that fixes me. Just put the music on and have all your favourite songs on, and yeah, as I say, it just lifts my spirits. I get up out of the bed, I get out away from the depression, and I even clean the house. So I don't know where I'd be without music.
Well, we are going to be talking later this hour, in fact, shortly, about the sort of the healing power of music and actually how it can be used medicinally nowadays, because those rhythms really can be very soothing and calming. Or as we know, if you've had a pretty boring day, sometimes putting your favourite song on can lift your spirits and get you going crazy. We know it can change our moods. So, Linda, if it's not a Christmas song, can I just ask, I'm just going to be nosy now, what kind of thing would float your boat?
What's that one about I'm never going to give up my dancing shoes?
I think it's about not giving up.
You might have to give us slightly more of a clue, that.
Oh, no, that's
Is it never gonna give you up?
No.
I'm not sure whether singing is allowed tonight.
I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out. I love that record. It's not that I don't like music. I can play the same record again and again and again and again. I can play music all day long. I just don't like Christmas records on the whole.
OK. And we're not giving you a hard time about it. It was just, don't worry. We're not trying to give you a hard time. And obviously, Grinch, if we can come back to you. Sorry, if we can come back. Just for a moment there. You're getting a bad reputation from me on this show tonight, which I clearly need to sort out for you.
It's because I'm green, isn't it?
Yeah. Got an altar, apart from the darkness, got an altar. What would lift your mood or calm you down?
Outside of Christmas time, what would I listen to normally? In my youth, I used to listen to The Prodigy quite a lot, which I think is slightly hard to believe, given my overall sort of appearance. So probably, yeah, if you sort of need to get your blood up a little bit, feeling a little bit down, going for a run or whatever, Prodigy was, that's kind of my go-to thing, I think, probably.
We'd love to know, by the way, what your views are and what your favourite Christmas songs are. Maybe songs that actually relax you at this time. We know what's going to get you going. It's a lot of the Christmas party favourites. But what's going to relax you over this Christmas period? Please get involved. gbviews@gbnews.uk. That's what we'd like to get involved in. I tell you what, so many emails coming in. Obviously, everything about Meghan and Harry and what you don't like about them is coming through loud and clear tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Your views on the New York Times are good. Clarkson's, there are some here that really did make me laugh. Ed says, my wish for the new year, by the way, is that Jeremy Clarkson is honoured in the New Year's honours list. Sit back and watch everyone lose their minds. I think that would do the job. Anyway, it's really nice. Please get involved. We love seeing your views, and we'll get as many of them on the air before 11 o'clock. Coming up, though, we've got the papers at 10:30 sharp with full panel reaction. Plus, we ask, is it right for parents to have a favourite child? I've got 3. Can I pick a favourite? We'll talk about it later. And can you have a successful Christmas with an ex? We will see you in 3.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents. Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
It's a festive Friday. Welcome along. Thanks for joining me. I'm Neil Fox, looking after Mark Dolan's show tonight, and actually for a few next week as well during the Christmas period. You've been really good on the emails tonight. Christmas music, you're loving it. Martin, I love Andy Williams, the most wonderful time of the year. What an amazing song. Makes me want to go ice skating for some reason. Frank says Bambino by the Springfields. Sherry, A Spaceman Came Travelling. Christopher, what a beautiful song. Glenn, Driving Home for Christmas. That's Linda's favourite, if she had a favourite, of course. Producer Beck says Mistletoe by Justin Bieber. God, now there's one that's passed me by. I'll have to listen to that. Floor manager Jamie, Step Into Christmas by Elton John, a classic. You know, 3 great Christmas songs all came out in the same year, 1973. That by Elton, Wizard and Slade, all the same year. Crazy. And I've forgotten who actually got to #1 that year. George says Christmas Dream by Perry Como. It never gets played. And producer Greg, Jonah Louis, Stop the Cavalry, who was our guest a little bit early on this evening. Rich says, my favourites are Christopher, A Spaceman Came Travelling, and Greg Lake's I Believe in Father Christmas. Lovely. Lots of votes coming in for Fairy Tale of New York. The new modern PC version isn't going down very well. Original version, though, says Diana. It can only be. Lots of great ones. Thank you very much indeed. Keep them coming in. It's GB Views at gbnews.uk. Thanks for getting involved. Right then, let's keep it on the music theme. MediMusic is a British tech company that's developed technology to prescribe music as medicine to reduce pain and anxiety. It's created a playlist of relaxing Christmas songs for people living with dementia. It's being piloted right now in a care home for the first time to help the 29 residents after NHS trials found it reduced the heart rate in anxious dementia patients by 25%. It's also being made available free of charge to all families and care facilities to use. Now, to discuss this further is the CEO of MediMusic, Gary Jones. Gary, welcome along. Really nice to have you on, and happy Christmas. What a great subject to talk about, and how lovely that music's making such a big difference. We always knew it did, and now you are using it scientifically and medically.
Yes, I mean it's been a long process. The science is solid. There's 25,000 papers published on PubMed, the bioscience library. It's been going for 40 years, and yeah, we're really excited about the future.
How did you get involved with it yourself?
Oh, long story. It's been a 10-year journey for me. I've been in the music business most of my life, and basically met Professor Mark Dolan from Queen Mary University in London, who developed what's known as music information retrieval algorithms. And these enable you to examine the digital DNA of a piece of music and extract things like tempo and musical key. And I kind of had a eureka moment, being a musician myself, where I thought, it would be brilliant if we could mimic the human brain's response to music using these algorithms and dispense music for the benefits of health.
I mean, I guess since time began, you know, mankind has always either beat a drum or knock stones together. We always know that rhythms, you know, we work on rhythms and it helps us function. We know the power of a great song to lift our moods or something beautifully relaxing to calm us down. It's nice that it's now being used medically. I know charities like Nordoff Robbins, who I've done work with in the past, have always used it to try and help music therapy for people, you know, maybe with severe learning difficulties. There's something about music, isn't there, and how it affects our brains that actually changes us for the better.
Yeah, I mean, music actually influences the brain more than any other stimulus. More parts of the brain are involved than any other stimulus, whether it's the amygdala at the front. It's mainly the central brain, the limbic system. But the hippocampus plays quite a key part, which is why music in dementia is so important, because it's the last thing really that the brain forgets is the music.
Now, there's a personal connection, obviously, for you and why you've got involved with dementia patients, isn't there?
Yeah, a friend of mine, her mother basically developed dementia. It's a horrible disease. I saw her go from quite a strong, independent farmer's wife to someone who basically couldn't do anything, couldn't remember anything. And I also saw the impact it had upon her husband as well, and that kind of gap that it created between them after over sort of 50, 60, 70 years of marriage. And it was music, playing the music, that kind of enabled them to talk again and engage again. And that was kind of very refreshing and made me realise that, yeah, maybe there is something in this.
So you now have this pilot running with 29 patients in this home. And how long's that been running for, Gary?
It's just started. We will finish it sometime around spring, and then hopefully be able to roll it out to other care homes in the area.
Is it like an app that people download, or is it it's not working like that yet?
Yeah, it's an app. It's not available for the public at the moment. We're doing trials and with closed user groups, and the care home in Brigg is one of those, and it will be publicly available towards the end of next year. But we're working a lot with the NHS at the moment. We're doing trials in the NHS on pain, looking at chronic back pain and opiate reduction, chronic pain groups, other dementia trials, and also pre and post-op.
We were just showing a clip on the screen there, obviously, of the care home where this is trialling at the moment with, obviously, I presume, someone who's suffering from dementia and also one of the... Yeah. Is it a music therapist that she was working with?
That's the care home manager.
Oh, is it?
But,
OK.
Yeah.
So the nice thing is, I presume, is this something that you don't need any specialist training, I suppose, to administer, if that's the right word for people? Is it just as simple as putting a playlist on, or is it something that is much more scientific? I guess because music is so different for different people, how do you work out the right songs for the right person?
Well, there's a huge amount of science behind it. I mean, we obviously, a lot of us see music as art, and we self-medicate, as your panel said earlier. But it is actually a combination of six sciences, which is maths and physics, without which music wouldn't exist, neurology, physiology, psychology, and sociology. So it's quite a complex mix. And what we're able to do is mimic the human brain by fingerprinting a piece of music and then creating a playlist that over 25 minutes reduces the heart rate, increases heart rate variability, which is important, and then promotes dopamine, oxytocin, all the good hormones, and reduces the bad hormone, cortisol, the stress hormone.
I mean, 25% is a significant amount straight away, isn't it? And why is reducing the heart rate such an important thing? Is it because people are getting super anxious?
Yes. Increased heart rate, increased cortisol, basically, which is the stress hormone, which is bad for you. And long-term exposure to the stress hormone has really detrimental effects on the human physiology and human health. And by reducing that and increasing what's known as heart rate variability, which is the gaps between each heart rate, you promote the positive hormones such as dopamine, the happy hormone, or oxytocin, which is important in childbirth, and smooths the breathing, improves cognitive response, and generally makes us physically and physiologically much stronger.
Is there one song that seems to be common for everyone's playlist?
No, no, there isn't. It's not fire started.
Gary?
Sorry, say again?
What's your favourite Christmas classic that calms you down, maybe?
Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues.
Original version?
Original, of course, yeah. Not Firestarter by the Prodigy.
Well, really nice to have you on. I really wish you all the very best with what sounds like a very significant move towards helping dementia patients. And nice to speak to you tonight.
Right.
You have a very lovely Christmas. All the very best.
And yourself. Good. Thank
you. Right, coming up, we've got the papers at 10:30 sharp with full panel reaction. Plus, we ask, is it right for parents to have a favourite child? And we ask the all-important question, can you have a successful Christmas with an ex? See you in 3.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to your Friday. Thank you for joining us. Emails have gone a bit crazy tonight. If I had to say there's one song appearing more than others, it's definitely got to be Last Christmas by Wham, which is such a favourite. Thank you for getting involved. Don't worry, Linda, we'll be off this very shortly. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Please get involved. So much about Harry and Meghan tonight, and particularly Clarkson definitely not being cancelled. Politicians of the year. Paul says Angela Rayner is too bossy, a bit loud when she's had a few drinks. I bet she is. We're going to be talking about favourite child and exes with our panel in a moment. But are you ready? Because before anyone else, we like to talk about the papers. So, if you're ready, it's 10:30. A time for a look at tomorrow's morning papers, hot off the press. So let's have a look at some of the headlines for you. OK, the UK set for a clash over the new right to change legal gender age 16 about Downing Street. OK, this is the UK set for clash over new right to change legal gender age. I mean, we're going to be talking about all these panel in just a moment. The Daily Mirror, I have to say, has got always close to Mama. King delivers his first Christmas speech yards from where the Queen is buried, which, to be fair, must have been very emotional. The Daily Mail, the no money for nurses, buckets for equality, diversity and inclusion. NHS wasting millions on woke non-jobs. And also Charles's moving King speech, a tribute to the late Queen, his mother. Right, The Times. Over 50s encouraged to end early retirement. Sunak seeks economic boost with midlife MOTs. OK. Also, I still want women to fancy me at 58, says Robert Crampton's midlife makeover. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. The Sun have got an exclusive. Charles evicts Andrew. King throws Prince out of Buckingham Palace. More on that later on. And the Daily Telegraph. Pro-trans laws needed across the UK, says Starmer. And defence spending will rise by $1 billion to beat inflation. And again, another picture of King Charles. His speech has his mother close to his heart. And the Daily Star, finally. Hackers target artist Mad Vlad. War on Banksy. We'll talk about some of those with our discussion. Yeah, maybe not that one. Right, my panel this evening, actress and reality star Aisling Horgan-Wallace, leading political commentator Benedict Spence and journalist and broadcaster Linda Duberly. Right. Let's look at the Sun first. Benedict. Let's look at the Sun first. They've been in so much hot water this week, I guess. They've issued their apology. Let's go to the Sun first. Charles evicts Andrew. This is a huge story.
Throws him out. Doesn't say whether it's the door or the window. If it's the royal family, it might, that sort of thing might have happened.
Hopefully it's the top of the building.
Yeah, I mean, Merry Christmas, Andrew. Season's greetings, goodwill and all that, but off you pop.
Yeah, he needed to go.
I think it is one of those... I suspect he's been itching to do this for a long time, to sort of shuffle Andrew off sort of stage left, pursued by a bear if possible. But, it's...
Well, he's making changes, isn't
yeah,
he?
it's got to be a break with the past. And I think if there was one thing that you could say about the late Queen, it is that Andrew was not banished from the fold quite as much as he could have been because, of course, she was his mother. She felt very protective over him. And I think a lot of people were prepared to say at the time, well, she's had a good innings. She's allowed to sort of keep her family close at this stage of life. But I think ultimately it's probably the right thing for Charles, who is, as we were all saying, he's trying to protect the institution. And Prince Andrew, whatever he may or may not have done, is not exactly conducive to polishing the image of
and
the royal
also,
family.
it was said all along by a lot of royal commentators and journalists that Andrew was the Queen's favourite child, which we'll be discussing later.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that sadly the Queen died. Now Charles is king. One of the first things he does is tell Prince Andrew to move. Yeah. So I think that's telling us something.
Well, after watching the documentary, they said that they place another story to squash other stories, something along those lines. So maybe they're trying to squash the Harry and Meghan thing with this. True. But I say it's time for him to leave. He should have left ages ago.
I mean, this definitely is making his mark. I mean, this is his brother, of course. So the new king is definitely making moves that hopefully people across the country, and I presume they will have, in a way, tested this one out. This is what the public probably think needed to be done.
Of course.
And has been done. And I have to say, look, that's the Sun. The other, obviously, red top, looking at the Mirror. Charles's touching message, always close to Mama. I mean, it'll be interesting seeing the first King speech at Christmas time.
Yes, yeah.
The King will pay tribute to his mother in the first Christmas TV message, delivered yards from where she rests in St George's Chapel. I know he's king. He's been doing this a long time in the public eye, but it's his mum, and that will be emotional, I'm sure.
I hope he cries. I'd like to see tears. I think that makes someone a lot more human. Yeah,
Oh, I
because
see.
if
Not,
I
not
was
for
talking...
entertainment value, just
Sorry?
because, not for entertainment. You don't want to see him suffer, just because you want him to be a little bit more sort of
No,
human.
not for entertainment. I wouldn't laugh at it. I just think it makes someone a lot more human. Okay, it probably sounds...
I want to see tears.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're saying.
The stiff upper lip thing, you know, you need to have human feelings. If you're giving a speech about your mum and she's just passed, I want to see tears, if I'm honest. I want to see that you're real and you're human.
Yes, but at the same time, I have to say one of the things that was so obvious during everything to do with the Queen's funeral was about how, in a way, the stiff upper lip, I know we've had it, they kept it, it was so dignified, everything was so polished. It was kind of, I hate to say so British, but it felt like it was. I don't think we're going to see the King break down, I have to be honest.
No, but I do think
we'll see emotion.
But
Just
we'll
a
see
little bit,
emotion,
yeah.
and I think he will be resonant. I think we saw that in the very first speech he made after the Queen died, that actually he has a way of connecting and engaging with people, that no matter how magisterial, you know, Her Majesty was, she didn't quite connect in the same way, and I think we will see that in his message.
And actually, is that a good thing, though, for the monarchy? Because we touched on this earlier on, because it's good and bad, isn't it? Because if you get too friendly and actually look too normal, then
you can't go too
people
far.
will question the institution.
I think the younger generation definitely want to see more emotion and more realness because, you know, we're so used to watching. I know the monarchy is not reality, but that's what we're used to. So if someone's not showing emotion, I think the younger generation have a problem with that.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that it's about age, and I think if the young generation want to see too much emotion, they just need to learn to live without it. But I think it's a question of calibration. I think I do a lot of media training and presentation coaching. At the end of the day, it's your ability to calibrate, to be serious, to be assertive, but also to connect emotionally. Yeah. And it's not impossible to do that. It just requires a great deal of self-discipline. But Charles has got that, and he's got years and years of practice, so I think the speech will be a great one.
And it sets the tone, doesn't it, for a new monarchy. This is his first.
Of course.
And I think it's a chance to maybe notch it up slightly and a slight little bit more reality.
Maybe do a little bit of
humanity.
A little rap in the middle, bit of music. That would raise the dopamine.
No. Yeah. OK, I think we're in the world of fantasy now. I've got to be honest, Ashley. No, thank you. OK, back to the reality shows. Off we go. No, fabulous. Right, next. Maybe the Daily Mail. NHS is wasting millions on woke non-jobs. I mean, the word woke has been so overused this year, to be fair. I mean, in some cases, things needed to be done, changes needed to be made. I think so. I think we'd all agree with that. But it does seem that the pendulum has swung so far in one direction, and here there's no money for nurses, buckets for equality, diversity and inclusion. Where do you sit on this one, Benedict?
I mean, I do agree that the NHS wastes a lot of money. I don't think that the NHS needs to be spending money on things like inclusion officers. I think actually, you know, the important thing about the NHS is that it treats people, it stops them from dying. And I think, especially when you look at how many people die in NHS hospitals because of clinical error, that is to say nurses or doctors making mistakes, I think you've got to look at the priorities of the institution and say, should it be sitting here and saying, yes, we're very inclusive and friendly, or should you actually be getting on with the job? But ultimately, I think that this is a bit of misdirection. This is talking about £1 million. Honestly, this is a drop in the ocean.
It's tiny.
Yeah, it is. The NHS, lest we forget, is the third biggest organisation in the world after Walmart and the
PLA.
The People's Liberation Army of China. It is a huge organisation. These few jobs, yes, they're pointless, but this actually is not where the majority of the waste is in the NHS. And were we to get rid of these jobs, which I do think we should, let's not pretend for a second it touches the side of the pay increases and the funding that is required.
It's important that you mentioned that because otherwise everyone would just be really angry that there are these jobs for...
Of course.
Yeah, that's the point.
And it is a drop in compared to the money that needs to be found. So the big question is, where can the money be found? Now, everyone... you see this being debated about the NHS, that it does waste a lot of money, maybe on a lot of red tape, maybe a lot of management jobs that maybe aren't entirely necessary. They need to get back to what it's all about. But the NHS needs proper funding. But with all... I have to say, I cannot imagine it's a simple decision for any nurse to take to go on strike.
No, it's not.
So right now, they must be at pains to go on strike because of the oaths they've all made. This is not easy. And I know it's hard for people, and they're losing money by going on strike. So what is the solution?
The thing is that it is very, very difficult for many of these nurses. But as you've just said, you know, where can the money be found? Now, the fact of the matter is there's no easy solution to this. We forget the NHS was set up when people retired at 60 and died at 65.
Yeah.
It isn't just a question of finding the money. At the end of the day, somebody's going to have to be very, very brave about the root and branch reform that has to happen in the NHS. And it will have to happen at some point. Politicians are going to have to take the bull by the horns, to use yet another cliche, but they're going to have to do it. It won't just be a question of finding money.
I mean, ultimately, whenever we have the conversation about NHS reform, people start screeching that they're going to privatise it and have it like it is in the US, you know, ignoring for a second that the US system is the only one of its kind, and the NHS is the only one of its kind, and Europe manages to get on quite well. Most of the developed world and a lot of countries that are not as well developed as we are have better health systems. Than either of these two. There are many options out there, but we're not actually prepared to have a sensible conversation about this because everybody wants things to be as it is, free at the point of views. They don't actually want to pay more for it. You know, as much as some people say, I'd be happy to pay more. No, they don't. They want other people to pay more money for it. This is the thing, as you say, somebody's going to have to be very brave and say, maybe this has to be staggered in terms of, you know, maybe it has to be done on insurance. People who, you know, eat more or live more unhealthy lifestyles may have to pay more. It may be that wealthier people who have a lot more assets have to sell some of their assets to pay for their social care, these sorts of things.
It's got to be something like that.
As the population ages, we need to remember, it doesn't matter how efficient the health service is, it's always going to be playing catch-up as the population ages.
It's interesting because if you look at the front page of the Times as well today, I mean, this age comes up again, so over 50s now, front page of the Times, being encouraged to end early retirement. So again, we are living longer, and so maybe they need to come out of retirement and start working.
And the problem is we're living longer, but we're not necessarily living healthier.
Yeah.
What's happened is we've made major advances in heart care and in cancer care, but we are now having to live with the degenerative disease of age, and that's expensive, and there are decades and decades of it ahead of us. So it's a very, very difficult problem. This is about a slightly different story. This is over 50s being encouraged to end their early retirement. And, of course, one factor you'll realise about this, Benedict, is that what this government did do is they put a pay freeze on the tax allowance of people exactly in the category of GPs who all decided it wasn't worth working anymore, so pandemic came along and they just retired. And now we're reaping the benefits of that kind of move. Now, the fact is, you do anything like that, you can expect a repercussion, and that's the one we've got.
Let's move to the front of the eye, which will be causing a lot of ripples and friction around the country. UK set for clash over new right to change legal gender age 16 in Scotland. So once again, you know, Scotland's doing something. It's slightly ahead maybe of where we are in London at the moment. Is it right? Is it wrong? What do you feel about this, Aisling?
I don't think it's right. I think at 16, you don't really 100% know what you want. And I have friends that have changed. So, and I have a friend who knew from a very, very young age, but she's one of a kind. I have other friends that said, no, they were still confused right into their late 20s. And if they had the option to do something when they were 16, in the confused moment, they may have made the wrong choice. So I just think 16's way too young to be making those kind of decisions, and I'm not comfortable with it.
I was just saying, just so we know exactly what the article says, it's Scottish Parliament voted for reforms that lower the age when people can apply to change their legal gender to 16 and removes need for a medical diagnosis. I mean, it does seem ridiculously young to me.
And Scotland has got a bit of a thing about 16, hasn't it, Benedict? You've got a theory about that.
Well, it's because 16-year-olds, they are children, and they are far more impressionable. During the referendum, the SNP wanted 16-year-olds to vote because they reckoned that 16-year-olds were more likely to vote for them because they were easier to target. Ultimately, that's what this is about in Scotland. It's about trying to empower people who the SNP very cynically believe, also correctly believe, are more impressionable. And if they're seen to be nicer to them, giving them things that they want, these people might vote for them if, when another referendum comes round, they are given the opportunity to vote again. I think one of the slightly concerning things about the whole trans debate is we actually know so little about it. It's still an area of scientific research that is very underserved, and there's also a lot of shutting down of it that goes on, especially in the United States and Canada, where campus activities are sort of very hotly contested. It's an area of science where often scientists will be shut down. They'll lose their funding if if a university fears that their research is going too far in one direction or the other. We don't know if it's innate, if it's a chemically driven change. We don't know if it's mimetic, if it's behavioural. We genuinely don't know these things. And here we have a government saying, we're going to wholesale rip up the rules and say you can do whatever you want. You don't even have to transition. You don't need to go on puberty blockers, anything like that. You can just identify. And the world is yours. So you can do whatever you want. And that's the key thing that I don't like about this. Not one side or the other. It's the fact that we are still at a very early tentative stage of research. And we have two sides, one of which is going, absolutely not. This is absolutely terrible. Shut it all down. And the other side that goes, everything is open season. Do what you want. Age 16, that's fine. Go get your bag. And I think that's a very unhealthy attitude to have.
I mean, this has been a very big subject over the last 12 months. And one side's shouting very loudly, and then other people are reacting against it. It does seem that a proper, informed debate needs to happen, maybe behind closed doors to start with, so people really know what is happening here, with experts and people from the trans community really getting together on this. It's all become too black and white.
I think the problem is we live in a society where we've chosen, sometimes that's driven by the media, of polarising everything. And life's not that simple. It's not just black and white. And we've got to, as Benedict says, we've got to start getting some informed debate going on what is such an important subject.
Well, Ashley and Benedict and Linda, some great thoughts there. Thank you very much. More from the papers coming up next. And is it right for parents to have a favourite child? And we ask the all-important question, can you have a successful Christmas with an ex? See you in 3.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation, This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
And our festive Friday continues for a little bit longer. Thank you for getting involved. It's GB Views at gbnews.uk. You love your Christmas music, don't you? You've got really involved in this one. I generally despise all Christmas songs, bar humbug, says Keith, especially anything by Harry Webb. Cliff Richard. It doesn't have to be a Christmas song either. Kay, though, this is sad. After 83 years of music, my beloved daughter's sudden untimely death has changed that. I can't even listen to TV ads. They just make me cry. I'm so sorry, Kay. That'll be a tough Christmas for you, won't it? David says, I love music. I love Christmas songs. I remember buying Dora Bryan, All I Want for Christmas is a Beatle. Is that actually a song? I've never even heard of that one. Back in the 60s when I was a very young boy. Anyway, you have a very, very happy Christmas. Thank you very much indeed. Right, we have the Daily Express front page in now, which says King's vow to build on the Queen's legacy in the Christmas speech. He will pledge to build on the glorious legacy of his darling mama. Just 3 months after the death of the Queen. I'm sure that actually will be... That was a tough one to write. I don't know who writes his speeches or how much he gets involved in writing his own speech for Christmas Day, but I think that'll be an interesting one to watch. I think a lot of people will be watching that this year. Have you an idea?
Yeah, and I think they'll be very moved, and I think that, as I've said earlier, he will do it very well. I am just wondering how he defines the Queen's legacy. That's what interests me. That would be quite interesting, I think, to find out exactly what he thinks it is.
OK. Well, it's every child's worst nightmare not being the favourite child. All jokes aside, football legend Michael Owen's come under fire recently after posting a TikTok video with his children, his 4 children, showing him pick a favourite child. It made me think, should you have a favourite child? To be fair to Michael Owen, OK, there was a TikTok trend going around where you had to pick who was going to get more likely to be in trouble with the police, who was your favourite child. So but he was standing on a boat and he kept pushing them off into the water. Gemma, who was the daughter who was on Love Island this year, she got pushed in. She wasn't his favourite child. So, I don't know whether you... Do you have siblings, Aisling?
I don't. So I was always the most favourite of both my parents.
If you weren't, that was a problem, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm a dog mum. I'm not a human mum, but I do have a favourite. But I don't let the other one know. I think it's important not to let the other one know.
You have a favourite dog?
Absolutely. God. You should never have favourites, though.
Oh,
I mean,
no. Well, have you got kids?
I've got 3. 2 of them are waiting outside for me now.
That's nice.
And I love them all.
What?
I think
Are they there knocking on the window going, choose me, choose me?
No. I think they're all fabulous in their own way.
Yes.
I don't...
That's not what you said off air.
Yeah. It is exactly what I said. I think they're completely fantastic, each in their own way. But even if I didn't think that, and even if I did feel more for one than the other, although I think that's a really stupid way to think, I would not let anyone know because I mean, why
what good can come of it?
What good could come of it?
No, I disagree. I think you should have favourites.
No,
I think you should let them know.
no.
I think you should make them compete for your affection.
That's so typical of you. That is so typical.
Absolutely.
Give them a good thrashing,
exactly.
Come on.
That's the sort of Darwinian raising that you should have, and they will succeed, and they'll thank you for
it. The Benedict Spence
and then they'll turn off the life support when they should.
Do you have kids, by the way?
No, I don't. Who would have to be foolish enough to have children with me?
You'll be the mushiest, slushiest of ever you do. I'm sure you will.
Exactly that.
OK. Oh, my goodness. Christmas is about sharing. So can you share with an ex? This is an interesting one. Actually, in my family, my father-in-law and mother-in-law aren't together, but they do spend Christmases together sometimes.
My ex is coming to Christmas lunch.
Your ex is coming?
He comes every year.
And how does that go?
Really well.
Have you got a new partner?
No.
OK.
That's why.
Yeah, but I have occasionally been out with someone or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, ever since we got divorced, we've done Christmas Day, birthdays, Father's Day, Mother's Day with our children every single year.
Can I ask when you split up, how old were the children?
Two were at primary school and one had just started secondary school.
Well, that's really mature, but all of my friends who have split up with their partners definitely don't have.
You've just got to make an effort.
I mean, when you have kids, you have to, you know, for their sake, you have to actually suck it up sometimes and go, OK.
But do you? Because can't they sense a bad atmosphere? Wouldn't they rather 2 Christmases at each parent's house?
Not if... I mean, some people can't, it's true. Yeah. Some people just can't get there for lots of reasons. But grown-up people get on together. They make an effort. Yeah, of course they do.
I've got a nice one here. An email came in. GB News is the cause of many people divorcing the BBC, so people would have to be crazy to return to their ex for Christmas. Call the midwife repeats. Laugh out loud. Like it. Thank you very much indeed, Nick. Linda, thank you. Benedict, thank you. Aisling, thank you very much indeed for being on my panel. I hope you all have a lovely Christmas.
And you.
With or without your exes. I'm sure that will be quite an interesting one. And thank you very much indeed for watching tonight. It's been a joy sitting in for the fabulous Mark Dolan. Have a good Christmas. See you next week.
Good evening, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a mild, often blustery Christmas weekend with some rain around, but by Boxing Day, it is going to turn colder once more. Here's the bigger picture. Low pressure dominating. This weather front has made for a very wet day for some, and that rain now creeping its way steadily across Scotland. With the cold air here, there will be some snow over the higher routes, in particular the A9 overnight. Rain through the central belt, and that should ease. Further south, a few rain showers for Wales, the Midlands, northern England. Many places further south will be dry and clear. Still quite gusty, the winds out there through the night, perhaps easing further south. But generally a pretty mild night with temperatures staying above freezing. There will be a touch of frost perhaps across the Northern Isles. And still some snow in the morning across northern Scotland. Could get down to low levels for a time before that tends to ease off. Many places dry and bright on Saturday, a fine Christmas Eve, but it will again turn quite windy, and there will be showers developing through the day for Northern Ireland and coming into other western areas later. Pretty mild one, double digits for